We've interviewed several survivors of extreme outdoor experiences, and today I'm sharing 4 of the most intense you will ever hear. From an individual that was mauled 3 times by the same grizzly bear over 30 grueling minutes, to someone who knows what it's like to be struck by lightning in the middle of the mountains. Also, a girl shares her 911 call from her and her best friend's extreme fall off of a cliff that you're gonna have to hear just to believe. To a mother that had to leave her entire family stranded while she hiked 26 miles in a winter storm to search for help in the Grand Canyon, and she did it with no winter gear. Get ready, this is a Survivors podcast marathon, and it starts right now. In June of 2020, hiker Courtney Henderson and her best friend Gavin Caruso started out on what they thought was going to be an ordinary hike.
Not a cloud in the sky. We checked the weather. Wasn't supposed to rain. Wasn't supposed to storm.
However, things quickly turned for the worse.
All of a sudden, dark clouds rolled in. We're kind of stuck up there.
Knowing how dangerous it would be to climb down, they called 911 for help.
My name is Gavin Caruso. Tried for a good hour to try to get up or down, and we can't. And it's starting to get cold, and it's raining. And that's made like the rock really slippery, so like we can't get down.
The 911 dispatcher instructed them to get lower on the mountainside to make it easier for search and rescue. But then they fell.
Okay, ma'am, I need you to take a deep breath. No, my friend, he's unconscious. I'm bleeding. It's an emergency. Okay, what happened? We fell down the mountain.
The following is my in-studio interview with Courtney Henderson, where she shares her amazing yet tragic story of how she fell and made it out alive. Dude, Courtney, thanks for being here. Your story is amazing.
Yeah.
And when I was reading about it, I couldn't believe what had happened, and I think I just want you to tell me what happened in your words, because what I read and I think what you've got to say are totally different.
All the stories. There's more to a story than what the news likes to put out.
Yeah.
Super excited to be here and tell my story. Love telling my story, to be honest. So I was with my best friend. I call him my person. We were together more often than we weren't. If it was a holiday, that was pretty much the only time we were not hanging out. And so COVID hit. We decided, hey, flights are cheap. Let's go do a little bit of exploring. So we went to Miami. Then we shot over to LA for his birthday in May. And then right around Father's Day, he was like, I want to go surprise my dad in Denver for Father's Day.
Were you into hiking prior to this?
I was into hiking. I just hadn't really ever gone that much, other than like our little silly forest preserves down in Illinois. I've really always been into it, camping and all that other stuff. We were just like, well, we're over by the mountains. Let's go on a couple hikes. So we found Bear Peak, El Dorado Canyon. I think that's how they kind of say it out there, to put in location. I've heard it called multiple things, so that's what I'm just gonna call it. And it was gonna be an 8-mile, so 4 in, 4 out.
So did you have a map?
So we were following with all trails. The first part is pretty easy, so it's like all gravel for the first part, just to kind of give you an idea of the easiness of the trail, or the rate of the trail. There were even horse signs, so you were able to take horses up to a certain point until it started getting a little more rocky, and just switchback after switchback on an actual dirt trail at some point. That day was beautiful, not a cloud in the sky. We checked the weather multiple times. Wasn't supposed to rain, wasn't supposed to storm. We're enjoying the hike, going up there, and I kept making sure, hey, we're still on trail, because he was the one that had the trail map, and I was the one that was keeping my battery, just in case anything happened.
Did you have it downloaded too, or?
I had all trails, and I had it with me, but we were doing he uses it so that he drains that battery, but we still have my phone.
Yeah.
So there was a couple times where I was like, hey man, this kind of looks off trail, and he was like, yeah, no, we're on trail. and he would show me. We had a lot of service, actually, surprisingly. I think I lost service once on one switch.
Yeah, that's pretty rare out there.
Oh, yeah. Pretty rare, but texts were coming through. My snaps for my story were loading and all that stuff. So I knew it wasn't a connection issue, really. And we were on trail.
Yeah.
That's what I would assume, since that's what it was showing, and that's where we were thinking we were, according to, obviously, the trees or like the trailhead posts, the markers that people have put there. All of a sudden, dark clouds rolled in. We're kind of stuck up there after we scrambled. It had started sprinkling. There had been no thunder or anything. So we were like, it's just some sprinkles, since that's what happens, it's weather.
Yeah.
It'll come by and we'll be good, and then it started to really rain. And then the Front Range is all flat irons. So once those get wet, it's black ice, essentially.
Were you scrambling up? Like, were you like hands and knees kind of thing?
No, we were just walking up.
Okay. So the trail, it was still more of a trail.
It was still more of a trail. That's why I was under the assumption we were on the trail, and he was under the assumption we were on the trail, and our map showed we were on the trail.
Okay.
So
we're on the trail.
We're on the trail.
Yeah.
So storm came through, and we kind of like, hey, we can't really get up, because it ended up, we kind of like dead ended by this dead tree, and they had just had a wildfire a couple years in that area beforehand. So we were in an area, I wouldn't say desolate, but it was burnt.
Yeah.
The trees weren't sturdy by any means. And that actually played a big role in finding a spot to rescue us, because they couldn't tie in anywhere.
Yeah, right, yeah.
To go down to us. And so it dead ends, and we're like, really the only way up is a vertical climb, and we're not doing that. That's not happening. And then the only way down, which is kind of a little like where we had gotten to, we were doing more like, hands, knees, like up, and then we would go like up a trail a little bit, and then switch back, and then it would kind of be like rock, hands, knees, rock, and then switch back to the trail.
Were you getting nervous at this point?
I was. Gavin actually remained super calm throughout the whole thing, really. But I think he was trying to remain more calm for me, because I ended up hugging the tree that we were by, and I'm like, you're calling rescue. I'm not moving. This is
before you fell?
This was before I fell, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, because we had realized that it was way too slippery to get down the way we had just came.
Oh, man.
And I was like, I just held on to it. I was like, you know what? We're not experienced enough to want to get ourselves down in the middle of this. I'm not comfortable enough wanting to get
So you had reached a point where you're like, this is as far as we can go. I need to hold on to this tree because I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we had already talked about calling for rescue, because we were like, how are we going to get down? Like, it's way too slippery, because Gavin went to go try to like see, and I even went to go try, and it was just like, we put our one foot on that boulder, and it was pretty much slid out from under us in a way. So I wasn't going to turn my back and, try and make it down. And so I finally just hugged the tree and was like, you're calling rescue. We're calling rescue. I'm not going to go anywhere.
And you had a cell signal at this point?
We did. We had a cell signal the whole time, actually. And rescue actually said if we fell any further, the way we fell into a channel. And if we would have fell any further into that channel, we would have lost service.
Wow.
So we were like kind of right on that area. So we were lucky where we fell, where we were. Gavin called for rescue, and I don't know, did you listen to the podcast?
No, I didn't know. I didn't even know you had another podcast.
Okay,
I just read your story.
Oh, okay. So I did the Out Alive Backpacker. They actually pulled that first 911 call.
This is going to be Wesley with the transfer. I have 2 stranded individuals on Shadow Canyon. Is anyone hurt, or you just need help getting down?
No, nobody's hurt. We just need help getting down. We tried for a good hour to try to get up or down, and we can't.
Okay. And what is your name?
My name is Gavin Caruso.
Okay.
And
where did you start from?
Yeah, and then like my friend's kind of having a panic attack. So, and now it's starting to get dark and it's raining,
Okay.
and we're at a very high elevation.
Where did you start
very
from?
Very dangerous position.
Okay. And are you dressed for the weather?
No, we're in short sleeves and shorts, and
Okay.
it's starting to get cold and it's raining.
What color
And
shirt
that's
are you
made like the
wearing?
rock really slippery, so like we can't get down.
And they're like, okay, well, we're gonna send rescue out for you, which was Rocky Mountain Rescue Group, and they had actually started texting me because we gave them our phone numbers for to contact us to help them find us, because all we had was our coordinates that we were at,
Yeah.
and that was pretty much it. I mean, we could yell and scream,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
where we were, flashlights weren't gonna.
So it's dark at this point?
It is getting dark. Sun is somewhat setting. So
Okay.
that's also another reason why we were like, we need to call for rescue, because it's going to be dark by the time we get down here. I get a text from Rocky Mountain Rescue Group, and they had asked us if we could get to a lower elevation for them to find us easier. And we're kind of like,
You're like, I wouldn't have called you if I thought we could get... Yeah.
Kind of. Well, that's what we were thinking, but we're like, I mean, if that's what they're asking us to do,
Yeah.
I mean, we're like, we don't really feel like we should.
Yeah.
But, and then,
So you had a gut feeling like we should stay where we're at, but we're going to do what they're telling us to do kind of thing?
well, yeah, because I mean, we trust the experts. They're trying to rescue
Yeah.
us. We're going to help
Sure.
them as much as we can. Like, if that's what they need, then I guess, that's what we're going to do. And so, like, 20 or 30 minute mark, we were like, we're losing.
Were you still
extra
hanging
daylight.
onto a tree at this point?
I told him I wasn't going to let go of the
Okay.
damn tree until rescue showed up.
Were you
Sorry,
kind of
go
at a
ahead.
point right there where, like, if you felt you let go of the tree, you were going to fall? Or were you
No,
just like,
I
this
just-
is my safe zone
That
kind
was
of
just
thing?
that was just my safe. Like,
Yeah, all
I'm
right.
grounded. I'm here. Like,
Okay.
if I hold the tree's
Yeah.
right here.
Right,
But
right.
the 30-minute mark, they didn't text us back. We didn't hear anybody. Like, we weren't seeing flashlights even down.
So you're like, they can't find us.
Yeah, we're like, they legit can't find us. They need us to get to the lower elevation to find us. So we tried to get. That's kind of where things went and took a turn. He positions himself and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go first, so that if we fall, I can catch you.
Oh, man. Okay.
And so I was like, all right. So I turned around, and he's right there, and I feel my foot slip out of, it was my right foot, I remember, slipped out off the rock. Whew, sorry.
It's all right.
Whew. And, damn. And we fell. I bounced around a couple times like a tennis ball. I remember hitting my head 5 times. Like when I was in the free fall, I was still awake and I knew what was going on. And so I covered my head. I was a skater. Like, I skated all throughout high school and stuff, so I kind of knew how to fall. All I was thinking of just protect the noggin and whatever else can be fixed. I felt myself hit my head, and that's kind of like when my body went limp, but I was still with it. So, like, I wasn't able to really come up and protect myself, and that was when I started bouncing around. I finally, like, I think I did end up losing consciousness. I don't remember losing consciousness. It's hard to ever say you lost consciousness, because
Right.
you go to sleep and you come to and you're like, oh, what happened?
Right.
Just what happened? So, I kind of, it was like a movie in my mind. Like, when I woke up, like, I wake up and I've got blood just pouring down my face. I have a couple pictures. Like, I took a picture down when I was out in the mountain
Yeah.
after rescue got to us. and just like this half of my face is just all bloody.
Oh man.
I'm actively bleeding. I'm trying to like quickly do an assessment, like, okay, I can wiggle my toes. I'm obviously moving my hands. I'm good. Like, I'm okay for now. Whatever. Like, yeah, I hurt, but I'll figure it out. I look and I don't see Gavin.
Did you know that he had fallen with you?
Well, yeah. I knew he fell with me, or I thought he fell with me. I was hoping that he either tried to grab me and I just fell, or I don't really know.
So how did you both fall at the same time?
So where we were, we decided that it's kind of hard. So he turned himself to like kind of be on that vertical down to the next rock.
Okay.
And he was 6'2", I think. So he could actually step down, and I'm this little 5'3".
Yeah.
So mine's more of a
You're a little further down.
Mine more a little reach.
Yeah.
So he was behind me to like catch me if I did slip out, and I right before I fell, I feel him kind of like try to pin me up against the mountainside, and then we just he couldn't hold gravity, couldn't hold me anymore. We fell. So when I came to, I did my quick assessment. I realized I don't see Gavin. I see his shoe, like 15 feet in front of me, maybe, if that. And I'm like, where's the rest of him? Mm-hmm. I turn around, and he's pretty much under me, behind me. Like, he's like laying here, and I'm like sitting. I'm sitting up at this point, so I'm sitting here. So he's just right behind me, out cold. And I'm like freaking out at this point. He had taken my phone and everything, so that I just had to deal with myself. No extra weight, no extra things like falling out of my pocket that I had to worry about while I was trying to make the maneuver down.
Yeah.
So I quickly had to get my phone out of his pocket to call 911 and be like, hey, we fell. Rescue wanted us to get to a lower elevation, and we fell.
911, what's the address of the emergency?
This is Jeffcom with a transfer. Hiker, I don't know where she is.
Okay, ma'am.
On Mesa Trail.
Ma'am, I need you to take a deep breath. We have a rescue team that's supposed to try to find us. Okay, they're on their way. They're looking for you right now, okay? But you need to stay home. No, my friend, he's unconscious. I'm bleeding. It's an emergency now. I'm bleeding. I'm going to die. Okay, what happened? We fell down the mountain.
He's out cold. I'm on the phone at this point, freaking out. I'm alone. It's getting dark. It's storming. I mean, lightning is hitting the ground. Like I saw a couple lightning strikes hit the ground while waiting for rescue. So, and then probably about an hour into the call, after we fell, I should reiterate, is when it started to clear up. The storm was pushing through, and it was a rainbow came out and all that stuff. Gavin had started to come back to, I think, because I started like, I was like, wake up.
Yeah.
Like, you have to wake up. I can't carry you. And he kind of came to, and he started snoring, like having like the agonal snoring respirations. And I was on the phone with 911 at the time, and I'm telling them like, hey, he's hurt, I'm hurt. We need to, like, can you guys hurry? Like, where are you guys at?
I'm going to bleed out. Where are you bleeding from? My head. Do you have... Gavin, you're okay. Stop moving, Gavin. Is he the one unconscious? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Is he unconscious or is he understanding what you're saying right now? He's trying to move. He won't even respond to me. Gavin, you have to calm down. Gavin, you're gonna fall again. Stop.
Where you had fallen, are you in a worse place now for them to get to you?
I think actually the next day, or yeah, when they talked to my mom, because my mom flew in that morning, they had met her to give a couple things, like give her my stuff, because they had some things of mine. I think my hat and my glasses or something. They had something that they needed to meet somebody at the hospital to give it to. And my mom actually ran into him. She thanked him for the rescue and all that. And he said it was the hardest rescue, the most technical rescue they've had to do in 10 years.
Wow.
Do you see any markers to tell you where you're at? Is there anything that stands out? I mean, I see the f***ing world. I see like a whole bunch of mountains. I see the windmill. We are literally on the face of a mountain.
So I think it took I was on the phone with dispatch for about 3 hours, I believe so, if I'm remembering right, because this happened back in 2020. Yeah. So I was on the phone with her. We never cut out. Like, it was never like, hey, can you hear me? Or, you hear me now? I was on the phone with her the whole time.
I want to call my mom. I want to tell her that I love her. His head's bleeding a lot, and I'm bleeding a lot. We're going to bleed out and die. Ma'am, we're going to die. I need you to stop thinking like that, okay? They are on their way. They're going as fast as they can. I need you to take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. I want you to focus on doing that over and over again, okay? Deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Can you rip his shirt and put it on his head to control the bleeding? Okay, give me just a second. I'm going to try to put my phone down so I can rip off my shirt and put it on his head, okay? Okay.
And about the 2-hour mark, I saw lights down at the trailhead. So they had gotten the ambulance and their cars as far as they could drive it. And I told her that, so I knew that they were on their way.
Yeah.
So they end up having to come up from the top to get to us easier. So I'm hearing, this is like 8 or 9 o'clock maybe, I think.
Yeah.
I'm hearing Rocky Mountain Rescue. If there's anybody out there, let me know. So I start yelling once I hear him yelling out for me. They finally realized, hey, that they see us.
This is the last home stretch. I promise. I see lights. I promise.
I asked dispatch. I was like, do you want to stay on the phone with me, like, till they get down here? Because that was originally the plan. Was we're gonna stay on the phone until rescue gets to you. And I was like, well, rescue knows where we are. Do you want me to like free you up? Because I don't want to tie you up or anything. You know, they know where we're at. I feel comfortable to get off the phone. She stayed on the phone with me until they ended up down by us.
Yeah.
And that was when I had my rescuer, Josh was his name. And I remember Josh and Paige. Those were the two kind of head honchos down by us that night. They didn't have extrication tools to do both of us at the same time. So it was going to be one, then the other. And I was actually on the phone with dispatch during the time they were searching for us. I'm telling them that we need a helicopter, like, and she's like, well, we have to wait till rescue gets there. They have to make that decision. I'm like, no.
You're like, I'm telling you, I need a helicopter.
I'm telling you right now that I need the helicopter. Like, he's going to need a helicopter. I might be fine, but he's going, like, somebody is going to need a helicopter out. I I don't think you guys are going to be able to find us without the helicopter. They actually, before they even went to the summit, I should add, she had to release flight out to find us. Even they had to fly over us 3 times, I think.
Did you hear that?
I
Helicopter?
saw and heard. I had actually took my phone out and put my flashlight out and started waving it around.
Mm-hmm.
And they took them 3 passes, and I think I remember her saying they still can't find you. So like at this point, like I'm like, I told you we need a stupid helicopter.
Yeah, right.
He tried to see if we could get up, but I had been in a car accident 2 years prior and had a neck injury, and he didn't want to extricate me anymore with me standing up and walking just because of my prior spinal injury. So he radios up and is like, yeah, they both need to be extracted. But they were like, hey, we're going to work with him first because he's in the worst shape. And I knew that. And like, he was like, it's going to be a while until you get out of here.
Oh, man.
So I think I think they said 15 hours, 15-hour rescue, 250 volunteer hours.
Oh, my gosh.
Put in that night to get us both out. I didn't end up in the ER till 5 in the morning, 4 or 5 in the morning.
How did they get you out?
They did a vacuum splint, and then what they did was litter us up the vertical, because they had to go, I think I heard them say they had to go 200 feet vertically to get us up to a point, and then
What is a vacuum splint? I don't know what that is.
So it's kind of like a coffin in a way, but they put it under you, around you, and then it's like filled up with air, and then they take the air out, and you're like sucked in and stuck. So, and then you know what a litter is, right?
No.
The backboard, but it's got it's more of a box.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So they're able to tie things to it, hoist it up easier than a regular backboard or stretcher would. I remember him saying that they had to do about a 200-foot vertical uphaul of us, where then they had to walk another mile or so to go 100 feet vertically again. And then I think it was a mile and a half again to where the helicopter could land.
Oh, man.
And I mean, it took 2 times longer than it should have because they couldn't find a place to tie in, like I said, because of the fire, the forest fire that happened a few years before. It's also a big thing. Make sure you burn your embers out and all that.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if it would have changed the outcome, but if they could have had an easier tie-in spot, who knows? He could be next to me now telling the story too. I don't really know for sure, but I remember they finally had gotten him up after a few hours. Right before they took him up, one of the rescuers was like, "Hey, can you talk to him, like calm him down a little bit?" And I think that was their way of telling me, "Hey, you might want to just say goodbye." Like, I didn't really think about it being that, but now as a first responder, that's kind of the way I would word it if I ever came into a situation like that.
Yeah. Tell everybody real quick about your job. What do you do now?
Yeah, I'm an EMT,
Okay.
full-time right now. I'm actually testing to try to get into paramedic school. I want to end up being a flight medic out of all this. So I want to be up in the helicopter saving the people that I was.
Was that sparked out of this?
Yeah, actually. Because I was working at Vans, the shoe store, before all this.
Yeah.
Not really knowing. I was 19. Didn't know what I wanted to do. So that did actually spark what I wanted to do, and I've been pursuing that pretty much ever since I got medically cleared to do work back to normal 100%. So I saw the helicopter hit. I told him, hey Gavin, like they're rescue, they're here to help us, like, because he doesn't really like hospitals and stuff like that. So whenever he's hurt or anything, there are a couple, like when we got into the car accident, he refused medical treatment.
Oh wow!
And ended up finding out his back was broken.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, so we got into the car accident together. By the way, a couple years before.
Oh wow.
So I was like, hey Gavin, like they're here to help us. We need the help. They need to get us out. And I told him, I go, hey Gavin, and the only time he actually was kind of like lucid, he like turns up. My nickname is Corn. All my friends call me Corn. I don't know. I don't really know why. I grew up in Indiana, I guess.
There it is. Yeah.
So I was like, hey Gavin, and he actually sits up and turns around and looks at me and goes, what, Corn? And I go, I love you, buddy. And he goes, I love you too, Corn. And that was that's the last thing we ever said to each other.
Oh wow.
Those were his last words. Unless he said something to people up in the rescue. But from what I know, they got him up the 200-foot haul. And he coded. They got him back. Jesus. And they were able to make it through that mile hike. And he coded again. Sorry.
No, you're good. You take a break?
Yeah, just need a second.
Okay.
Whew.
Do you want to grab some tissues or something like that?
Yeah,
that might
please. Back to, where the hard part when I had to take the little break was he made it the mile and a half and then coded again. And I only know this because they had given us the report. The flight medic gave us the run report. So the narrative was in there of what happened with him, because at that point it's a together call for them, I think.
Yeah.
And so the stuff they had intubated him, worked him, and they called it in the helicopter.
Wow.
I didn't know. So little fun fact, when people have head injuries, sometimes they get into a little brain loop where they constantly ask the same things over and over again, whether or not they just got the question answered to them. My loop was, has anybody called my mom? Can I call my mom? Is Gavin okay? And it was just constantly, is Gavin okay? Did somebody call my mom? Okay. Is Gavin okay though? How's Gavin? What's Gavin? And every time was, he's in good hands, stuff like that. I get to the hospital because they finally extracted me the same way they did with him, the litter, up haul, walk, helicopter. When I was with the flight medic, he's like, hey, it's going to be about a 10-minute flight over to St. Anthony's in Lakewood. I get to the hospital, they tell me, oh, you're at St. Anthony's. Anybody you want us to call? And so I was like, yes, call my mom. How's Gavin?
Yeah.
They still didn't tell me that. I think
What answer were they giving you? Do you remember?
at the hospital was, let's figure out what's going on with you first.
Yeah, they didn't want you to. Wow.
So I had called my mom. They had called my mom. So it would have been 5 in the morning, I think. 5, 6 in the morning over here, because they're an hour behind over in Colorado. And so my mom gets a call 4 or 5 in the morning. She's like, hey, this is Brandy from St. Anthony's ER in Lakewood, Colorado. We have your daughter here. So she had asked to talk to me, and Brandy came in and gave me the phone. She's like, what happened? I'm like, we fell down a mountain. Gavin's unresponsive right now. I don't know what's going on with him. And my mom was like, we're getting on the first flight. I'm getting on the first flight out of there. And that was when I was like, oh, I have to go. They want to take me over to MRI, so I'll call you later when I know anything more. I go to my MRI. They do all their imaging. I come back, and that's when my ER doctor comes back in. And she goes, okay, so I have some good news and bad news. And I'm like, okay. She's like, good news is, you only broke your C7, your spinous process in your C7. You broke your first rib, and we're gonna need to stitch your head up. And she goes, now the bad news, your companion you were hiking with, and she didn't even need to say it. I knew then and there. I mean, I knew deep in my gut that he was gone, but I was trying to keep myself hopeful and in denial until I heard the word about it, or saw it myself. And that's when she said, he didn't make it. And I look at my nurse, I look at my ER doc, and I go, can I be alone? And they kind of look at each other, super stunned, like, I guess. I'm like, leave me alone. Like, let me take this in. So they left me all for 5 minutes, I would have to say. Rightfully so, worried.
Sure.
They just broke that news to me.
Yeah, what's this girl gonna do?
Yeah, and I just told them to leave the room. Like, I do have trauma from it. Go get the therapy. Like, it's not something to be taken lightly. Like, I essentially held my best friend while he died. So, I go to therapy. It's EMDR is what it's called. So it's kind of, they put you back where everything happened in a way, but it's like a safe setting. So there's been a couple of sessions where we've mimicked thunderstorms.
Oh, man. Do you think of it now when you hear thunderstorms?
Yeah, I do. It's taken a couple years and a lot of work with my therapist to be okay now, but there were a few storms that rolled through when I got home. So I was in St. Anthony's Hospital for about 4 or 5 days. And I'm surprised I was there for such a short time, but at the same time, I had told everybody, I was like, hey, if I'm not out by his funeral, I'm leaving AMA. Like, I'm going to be at his funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to say bye to him out in the mountain, but the coroner had already taken him down to the morgue. So when I'd asked the ER, I was like, can I see him? And, you know, now being, like, knowing as a medical, like, a professional, especially, like, kids and stuff, parents will be like, let me see their kid. Like, let me see my kid. And you should let them see. Like, I at least was trained to let that happen. So, and I didn't know that prior, but I asked. So when I learned that, I'm like, hey, people do ask. Like, I asked to see him.
Sure.
They came back and they're like, yeah, unfortunately it was too late. Because I was like, I don't know if it was too late. I told him, I was like, can you, like, wheel me to him, like, just so I can say bye, like, if it's not too late, if they haven't taken him anywhere. But it was too late. And so my mom came walking in the next day, and I'm like, wow. Hey, Mom, I already told my doc that I'm going to leave AMA if I'm not out by the funeral. And she's like, I mean, you're 19. I can't really force you. But docs, the team was really adamant. They knew. I told them, and they kind of like chuckled, and they're like, oh, no worries. We'll make sure it works out. Like, so I stayed there for a few days. PT, OT, speech therapy came just to double check, make sure no screws were still a little loose.
Right.
Everybody's got screws loose, still got screws loose, but making sure they weren't any more loose than before. I always have to say thank you to Vans, though, because on the way to Gavin's funeral, I get a call from California, and I'm like, oh, hey. And he goes, hey, this is Steve Van Doren, the owner of Van's Shoe Company. And he's like, I heard you fell and you lost a really close friend of yours. I'm sorry to hear that, and I hope you're doing okay. I'm going to send you a care package to your store that you work at. Just kind of like up my mood and all that stuff. I had actually...
That's super cool.
The week I came back, I made my mom take me to my store to go show proof of life. Because they all knew something happened. Right. And they all wanted
I'm not making this up.
Well, no, I mean, they all wanted to see me. They all wanted to make sure I was okay and proof of life, like, type. So I was like, hey, guys, I'm home. I'll be back soon, I promise. I miss you guys. Love you guys. So Steve on the phone had said to me, he's like, you know, we really, like, take pride in the fact that we all include ourselves as a family, and you showing up the week you came back, like, really shows that, like, peace in you. So he, like, thanked me for that. And just kind of being the role model, like a role model in a way for that. And then I think 2 weeks later, I get a whole box full of van stuff. And I mean, like, this box is shipment box size. Like, we just got a whole box of shoes size box. Like,
that's super. I almost wore my Vans sweatshirt today. I did. I was like,
I'm in my Vans.
Yeah.
I'm in my Vans stuff today. I actually made custom shoes of one of the pictures that Rocky Mountain Rescue Group got, and I'm wearing them on my feet today.
That's awesome. What did you bring with you?
So I actually brought the shirt that I fell in. This is what I took off.
Wow.
My head. You want me to turn it this way? I don't know. Good. All right. So this is the shirt that I took. I fell in it. You can actually, if you look hard enough, you can see the way I fell.
Oh, man.
And then it's still tied. It's still got wrinkles from where I
Oh, wow.
wrapped him up and tied it around my head like I'm in Survivor.
Yeah, right.
So we got that all dirty and muddy and bloody, I should say. And then I have his backpack.
Oh my gosh.
This is the bright green backpack. And the family members and friends that are watching, they're all going to roll their eyes at this one. Especially his mom, because his mom was like, oh, there's that green backpack. But yeah, he fell with this, so the wear and tears from the fall. Like, there's stuff in here. I left some of his stuff in here. While I know he's not coming back, but like I still got the like.
Yeah. What's the outdoor life for you now? What's it like?
So my boyfriend now he's way more into camping and outdoor stuff. And we go fly fishing once a year. We've got a backpacking trip. Actually, we're planning to do the Ice Age Trail this summer. Part of it.
Yeah.
We're going to do a short little 8-mile stretch, I think. Or 16 altogether or something like that. I have to look at our plan again. Planning that. Bucket list of mine is going on the Appalachian Trail. I would love to do the Grand Canyon, not in the winter though.
Yeah, no, don't do it in the winter. Don't do it in the winter. I don't recommend it at all.
At least 2 years after we fell. Because I think we're coming up on the 4-year mark now. Wow. Time flies.
Yeah.
Because it would be next month, be the 4-year. I actually went back, I think it was around the 2-year mark, a little bit later. I wouldn't have wanted to go during the anniversary. One of my close family friends, pretty much sisters growing up, they lived down the street. She got stationed in Fort Collins. We were down in Colorado Springs. And I made an impromptu trip to go and see her and hang out with her for a week. And I don't know why I did it this way now that I think about it, but the last day, we went and I redid the hike.
Oh man!
And we made it to the top, and that was probably the most rewarding hike for me, and probably will always be, just because once I got to the summit, the top, the end of the trail, I kind of like looked up and was like, I take this backpack too, so like if I'm going on a trip, not a backpacking trip, but just a regular trip, this is my personal. This is my personal. This is my carry-on. I'll take my work stuff out of it, put whatever I need in there. So like I looked at him. I hugged the backpack. Was just kind of like, we finally made it, buddy. So that was that one's probably the most rewarding and I would say healing part of the journey, is the finally making it up there and to the point where we wanted to sit and enjoy the view and take in the world. I mean, I have the picture. I can send. I'll give you guys the picture for it. But there's the picture of me on top. Like, I've got my arms spread. Like, I look like I've accomplished.
Mount Everest.
It looks like I accomplished Mount Everest, but I just did an 8-mile in and out. Like, so yeah, that was pretty healing in its own way. So yeah, I mean, my parents also, they got me a compass that I also bring around everywhere. So all my travels that I've been to since then.
Oh, that's pretty.
Yeah, I
like that.
I take the compass.
That's super cool.
Show it to the camera. Yeah, it's got. It just says, "In memory of Gavin, your forever hero," because I blame every day that I have now. Not blame, but I give every day that I have now to him. I mean, he said, "I'll catch you if we fall," and that's what he did. Yeah. I'll take a picture. I got a tattoo, a memorial tattoo for him. I don't know if you can. I'm trying to show it here for you. It says "Forever my hero." It's a compass. The heading is east because we fell facing east. And this picture is actually one of the pictures from the trailhead. So right before we started, like, we had just started the summit.
Oh, wow.
So this is Bear Peak. I fell down this mountain. And then I made the sun setting behind the mountains because
what's the signature?
That's his signature.
Oh, wow.
So I put his signature as kind of like he's signing off for the rest of my life, you know? Like, here's the extra life. You're welcome. My hero, in a way.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, for sure. Because I think there's people that not only have been through something similar, but also can now be better prepared when they go out too.
Yeah,
so
thank
you're
you very
awesome,
much.
man. Crazy story. Glad you're here to tell the story.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm here to tell the story too.
Yes,
wish it was
under better,
too.
under better circumstances for sure. But
oh yeah, but I appreciate you having me on. It was really cool, really exciting.
Cool.
Yeah, love telling my story.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You didn't hear it sneaking back up on you again.
They just float. They're like a ghost.
What were you thinking at this point? Well, you thought it was over.
It's one of those things I wish no one gets to see.
Was she trying to physically eat you?
I'm sorry, but it's really hard to play dead when something's chewing on your face.
You're hardly able to see at this point.
She removed the whole left side of my face in one fell swoop.
I don't know if I'm ever going to talk to anybody else that can tell me that they found a chunk of their head.
I'm over 12 kilometers from my truck. Like, what's going to happen?
Jeremy, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. Your story is absolutely mind-boggling to me. When I was just sort of learning about everything that you went through, I was thinking about how I was going to ask you questions. And it's so absolutely mind-boggling. I don't know how to even ask you questions. So just go through your story. I think this is going to be a pretty wild one.
I guess my journey starts really on August 23rd. That was the night before my sheep hunt, and very young. I had a very young family, me and my wife, and I had a daughter who was 8 months old at the time. And I was packing up, getting the last of my things ready to go on a 4-day sheep hunt. Sheep hunting is kind of one of the biggest things for me. Even though I spent 17 years chasing one, still haven't harvested a legal ram yet or got a ram. So this year was going to be different because I spent that whole entire year looking for sheep. I found a legal ram. I knew he was legal. I was on him every couple of days, making sure where he was. Taking a lot of pictures of him, showing my buddies, like, "Hey, is he legal?" Just to get everybody's opinion, because I wasn't sure. And finally, midway through the summer, we got some really good pictures of him sideways, and everybody's like, "Yeah, go kill him." So, so I was super excited to get out there, and I put my daughter to bed that night. We sat on the couch, did some selfies, and then while putting to bed, we listened to Baby Shark because that was her favorite nursery rhyme. And I'm a little cranky kid sometimes, so you play that and helps them go to sleep. So I left my house about 11:30 that night and drove a couple hours out to where I go sheep hunting, parked the truck, and grabbed my bicycle and my pack. And as I was putting my gear on, I noticed my bear spray rolling around the back seat of the truck, and was thinking to myself, I don't need that. What's the chances?
Were you really? Oh my gosh. Yep. Okay. Wow.
So I was just sitting there thinking about it. Like, I've hunted in here for like 17 years. Yeah, I've ran into bears. I only had to spray one bear that I surprised. And, I didn't see one the whole entire summer while hiking out there every, twice a week. So I thought to myself, I don't really need it. So I stuffed it in my backpack. And normally I wear it on my chest. But I was too lazy to take off my helmet and my binoculars and all my gear to mount it on my chest like I normally do. So I just threw it in the backpack. And my sheep camp was about 14 kilometers off the road. So I rode my bike in the moonlight, got way into the back, and started cutting up the last drainage. And as I was walking up the last drainage, I spotted some sheep, and they were only like 300-400 yards away. And I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." So I was slowly sneaking along the edge of the drainage up along the tree line, and just making sure they don't see me. And as I'm walking up, one of the things I didn't notice was all the bear tracks and bear poop all along the trail. I was too focused on the sheep, in order to see that. And they made it a little further way up and got to the top of the drainage, and I spotted some sheep, or I spotted more sheep. There was my ram. He was in the bunch, and I got really excited, and that's all I could focus on. I'd walk, 10 feet, stand for 10 minutes, just looking at him going, "Oh, I wish it was opening day."
Yeah. Right.
This was the day before sheep season. So my goal was to get out there early to find him and just to follow him until he went to bed and harvest him first thing the next morning. So that's how excited I was. And then I got to a spot where I could see a long ways, and he was just working his way along the hillside or the mountainside across from me. And I took off my backpack, leaning against my bicycle, and I had my elbows on the handlebars, just a nice steady look, and watching this ram. And I stood up to stretch for a second, and when I did, I noticed this little brown thing run in front of me, literally less than 10 feet away. And I knew right away what it was. It was a grizzly bear cub. And I got this kind of feeling over me that I was in a bad place.
Yeah, I bet.
Because now, you got a grizzly bear cub and it ran past me. Now I'm just trying to figure out where mama is. And I started reaching out of my backpack to grab my bear spray because, that's where I left it. And when I was reaching down to open up my backpack, I heard a branch break over my right shoulder, and literally just less than an arm's reach away was Mama.
How much time had passed there from the time you saw that cub to the where the mom was right there?
Maybe 5 seconds.
Yeah,
maybe. And I remember looking over my right shoulder, and I could see her. She had her right paw stretched out, ready to grab me. I could see her mouth was slightly open, and then you could see the whites of her eye on the left side. Like she was literally like, a foot away from me.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't really have much time to react, and it was really, the only thing I think of doing is just taking my bicycle and dropping in front of her and stepping aside. Her head went through the frame of the bicycle, and she picked up the bicycle and looked at me, and it was around her neck like a necklace. And the first thing I did was grab my backpack, and I just smashed her in the face as hard as I could.
Wow. Were you on the bike originally, or did you jump off the bike, and how'd that work?
No, the bike was, I was originally off my bike, and my backpack was leaning against the bike.
Gotcha.
And it was just in front of me.
Oh my gosh.
And so I smashed her in the face with her with the backpack. She snapped and managed to get a hold of my right hand. And I remember, I was holding the frame of the pack, and her teeth sinking through my hand. And you could feel her teeth just like separating my bones and my fingers. And you can hear the teeth grinding on the frame of the backpack. That was quite painful. I managed to get my hand away, and then I started beating her with the backpack, hard in the head, just smacking her on top of the head. On the backpack, it's a Badlands Ox pack, and on the sides there's like a 1-inch tube on flattened, like an oval tube.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to hit her with that as hard as I could, just to see if inflict some pain on her. Sorry, I got a.
No, you're good.
No, well, yeah. I got like my turkeys are sitting at the door here watching me.
I'm glad it was a turkey. Just saying. Yeah, I'm glad it was a turkey.
Yeah, it's. Anyways, sorry, they just caught my eye. So I'm beating her over the head with the backpack and trying to inflict as much pain I can on her. And then she started to back away. So I started to back up. She turned around and started heading back the way she came. And I was looking down at the pack, trying to open it up, trying to get my bear spray out or my gun off, either or. And then I remember when I grabbed the zipper, I took my eyes off her. And when I looked back up, she's about 30 feet away, and she had spun around and was now facing me. And she came in charging. And this is what I call the beginning of round 2.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and I mean that the bear, her standing there about 30 feet away, she looked pretty big. I mean, she wasn't that big, but like a 300-pound bear. But still, when she turned and started running towards me, it looked like a freight train coming through the bush.
Oh my gosh!
It was one of those things I wish no one gets to see.
Yeah.
And like one step for them was like 12 feet. Like it's huge. Like when they run, they can run faster than a horse.
Yeah.
And they can go from a solid standstill to full tilt and with one leap. It's pretty crazy. So she started to charge me. And I just thought, well, I'm just going to throw my backpack at her and hopefully she'd just eat my lunch instead of me.
Yeah.
So I threw my backpack and I ran up the mountainside, and my goal was to run up the hillside, and it was pretty steep, and jump off one of the steeper parts of the hill and jump into a tree, give me some extra height right away. And well, I got up with this little 8-inch spruce tree, about 8-inch trunk, and got up about 5.5, 6 feet off the ground. And I remember looking down, and I could see her running through the bush. You can just hear her,
Oh my gosh.
and you just hear everything crashing. And I remember looking down, and there she was at the base of the tree. She stood up on her hind legs and reached up with her paws, just straight up, grabbed my right leg, and just kind of wrapped them around my leg, and then she just guided it into her mouth. And then, her mouth, and she said it. It's like kind of like that, and she just grabbed right around my right knee.
Which no, is this all slow motion for you at this point? Is this happening in slow motion for you? Is this, you know what I mean? As it's happening, is it?
Super
is
slow
this
motion?
Man,
Like
yeah.
it was like, it seemed like when she lunged up and was biting my knee, it just seemed like, okay, when is it going to happen?
Yeah.
And her teeth and her mouth dropped around my knee, and you could just see the teeth sink in. And I'm thinking, this is going to hurt, but didn't feel anything. You can just hear everything kind of pop and crack. And she's holding on, and she's just getting one little pluck and pulled me right out of the tree like nothing.
Oh my gosh.
I was trying to hold on for dear life, and no, she pulled me right out. I hit the ground pretty hard. It was a spruce tree that I was in, so I crawled underneath it, wrapped my arms and legs around the base of the tree, hoping that the spruce boughs would protect me. In the beginning, she was using her paws trying to pull me out, but that wasn't very effective. She seemed to be almost frustrated. She reached in with her mouth and grabbed me on the left side, kind of below the rib cage, above the hips, kind of in the love handle area. I guess in my love handles. That's what
She
we want to
grabbing
call
you?
them.
Is she grabbing you with the claws? Or is she grabbing you with her?
With her mouth? She bit
Okay.
me on the side and picked me up like I was nothing. And at the time, I weighed 200, a little over 250 pounds. I was in pretty good shape. And she picked me up and she shook her head like a dog swinging a toy around. And she threw me a few feet, and I hit the ground, and it knocked the wind out of me. And before I could take that first breath, she was right on top of me, like instantaneously. And she reached down with her mouth, and she grabbed me on the left side of the face. Her top two canine teeth caught me on either side of the left eye.
Oh my gosh.
Just like this. And when she bit down, she removed the whole left side of my face in one fell swoop, one bite.
Just kind of as in crushed it all together down off of your. Oh my gosh.
Just crunch. Yep. Yeah. And then this is normally where I get my most favorite question ever is what's going through your head when she's biting on you? Normally it's teeth. I don't know what's going through your head. I was kind of wondering, do I taste good? Is it crunchy?
I kind of was wondering, actually. Thank you for clearing that up. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it, was that bittersweet? Do you need more barbecue sauce?
Yeah.
Should I have shaved that day?
Man, I'm glad you can joke about this because that's got to be like a coping thing for you, right? To be able to talk about it like this.
Yeah, to me now, it's like playing a video game. I'm just sitting in a drone above it, watching it all happen.
Yeah.
I'd use humor to help get through things.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's kind of funny on some of these podcasts. I always get that question, like, "No, what's going through your head when the bear's chewing on you?" I don't know. It's like half a second. It's freaking teeth. Like, what do you want me to say? No, like, what's going through your head? I don't know. It's like a tenth of a second, man. Do I taste good? Is it like chicken? Do you want a second bite? What's?
Oh man,
sorry.
No, you're good. Oh my gosh. So she's got your face off essentially at this point, right?
Only I guess just below from the left eye down to my chin or jaw on the left side. She's got that whole piece just tore right off. I'm curled up in a ball trying to play dead, and I'm like, this sucks playing dead while getting chewed on. I'm sorry, but it's really hard to play dead when something's chewing on your face. Just putting that out there.
I would probably think that would be true. Yeah.
So then I rolled over on my back and I started punching her in the face with my right arm, poking her in the eye, grabbing her ear, shoving my fingers in her nose, just to stop her from trying to bite me in the face. Because I mean that hurt. And then she had her mouth kind of over top of me, kind of over top of my face, and she's coming down to bite me a second time in the face, and her mouth was wide open, and I just saw an opportunity where I kind of lined it up with my left hand, and I punched my hand into her mouth, and I was thinking to grab her tongue, because if I held on her tongue, she wouldn't be able to bite me anymore. And so I shoved my middle finger and index finger down into her throat and used my thumb and ring finger and pinky to wrap around her tongue, and I held on, and I just remember like my fingers sliding down her tongue. You can feel the little bumps in the beginning, and then the ridge of the tongue. Some of the scars, and then on the back of the tongue is more like soft leather, and then you could feel the kind of, I guess, the more of the stiffer, harder part of her throat.
Yeah.
And I shoved my two fingers down there and held her tongue, and remember seeing my forearm, about this part of much of my forearm was sticking out of her mouth. So it was in there quite far, and remember looking at it and just seeing the drool run down and the saliva run down my arm, and then the smell of her, like it just a rotten, like a really dirty horse smell, like very distinct. Man. And her back legs were digging into my right side, into my stomach, and that was very painful. So I was trying to push her off me, just to get her legs off me, because that was really hurting. I mean, the bear's only about 300 pounds, but I couldn't budge her. Like, it was just solid rock. And my hand slipped and I hit the belly. And I could tell as the belly is not as firm. You could feel there's less hair, more skin. And I reached up in between the legs and grabbed at the time what I thought was balls. And when I grabbed it, I twisted and I pulled as hard as I could. And when I did, the bear almost made like a gagging, choking sound, and a squeal of a pig, like a real deep, deep squeal of a pig.
Oh man.
It's something that gives me nightmares, that sound.
Yeah.
And I held on for, I don't know, a couple seconds. I mean, I felt like, a minute, but it probably only was, say 2-3 seconds. And then I let go, and she ran back the way she came, just squealing like a pig and defecating all across the mountainside, just squirting and running and squealing like a pig. Then I got up right away and I dusted myself off. I walked over to my pack and gear. And
are you able to see at this point?
Yeah, everything was kind of fine. Like I stood up and just literally just dusted myself off and getting
so
all
eyes are intact at this point, and
yeah,
okay,
just a big chunk. Well, there's quite a few things missing, but at the time I thought it was fine. So I got to my pack and I pulled on my cell phone and decided to take a selfie on the mountainside just to see what I look like. And in that picture, you can see a large portion of the left side of my face is missing and chunks of my scalp.
Is that the one that's on your Instagram profile right now?
Yep, that is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I saw it.
I look pretty handsome there, eh?
You do.
I was sitting there looking at that picture and I'm thinking to myself, well, it's not that bad. I mean, I could at least go shoot that sheep across the way before I have to leave, or go look for this bear. And, I'm sitting there and I'm probably in shock, but I was actually pretty disappointed in myself that I spent this whole entire year, I guess from April until August, looking for this ram. I found him. I spent 17 years hunting in there, and I finally found a ram that I knew was legal. I knew where he was.
Wow, 17 years.
My year to get him. And, and I could have really prevented all this if I actually had my bear spray on my chest where I normally carry it and not in the bottom of my backpack. But no, I took a chance and it caught up with me. And I wasted 17 years of, I wouldn't say wasted. I mean, I enjoyed every second of the hunt out there for 17 years. I still love going out there today. But I was just so disappointed in myself that I made that big of a mistake and ultimately almost cost my life.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and kind of figuring out like, what do I do? Do I go back to my truck? Like, where do I go? And I had my gun leaning against my left shoulder. I had the clip in my right hand, and I'm just popping in rounds into the clip. I got 2 or 3 in.
Is this a rifle? What is this? Pistol, rifle?
Yeah.
Rifle, okay.
Yeah, and then the clip only holds, I think, 3 rounds anyways. I think it was getting the second or third one in, and I heard the sound of ice breaking. My hands dropped and went numb. Everything just came out of them. And the bear had come back, and she had grabbed me by the back of the skull. And I remember her teeth sinking in. You can just feel them grind and just essentially crush things. You could just feel all this pressure, and then just pop, pop. Like it's like when you take an ice tray and you crack it. It's very loud.
What were you thinking at this point? Well, you thought it was over.
I did. I mean, this had been probably 10 minutes after the second round when she ran
10
away.
minutes went by?
It was about 10 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
So I felt like I was safe. Like,
yeah.
Oh, there's no bear here. I'm good, right? Like, she's not coming back. So it's probably about, I'm going to say, yeah, 10 minutes. Maybe more.
But you didn't hear it sneaking back up on you again. It just crunching on your head.
Yeah. The one thing about bears is even in the fall when you got leaves on the ground, you can watch a bear walk across the ground 20 feet away and you can't hear them. They just float. They're like a ghost. It's crazy. It really messes with your mind. Now she got me by the back of the skull. And I remember seeing her paws on either side of me, and she's just digging in the ground going, "Urgh," and just like playing tug of war with me and dragging me.
Yeah.
When you have a dog and you got a little rope and you're pulling on it, how they just get down low.
Yeah.
Well, she was like that, just dragging me back into the bush. She did 3 or 4 good pulls. I don't know how far he went, maybe 10 feet. And I was sitting on my butt, kind of sitting up, hunched over. Felt like I was leaning against something, probably her. And she reached over with her paw over my right shoulder, caught me on the bottom left corner of the face, and she peeled across my face, going diagonally towards my right eye, and she peeled off all the skin, my nose, my right eye, right ear, and a large chunk of my scalp on the right side. Just one fell swoop with her paw. And then she started chewing on the left corner here of my head, just kind of gnawing out like a dog on a bone, just with her head sideways, just crunching away.
Is she what is this bear trying to do at this point? Because it's at other bear attacks that I've learned about, they're just trying to get rid of the threat so they can protect their young. Is she trying to like physically eat you?
No, she's trying to protect herself from me, trying to get to her cub, and I'm in her way again. And of course, me being me, and it sucks when someone's chewing on my face, I fight back.
Yeah.
And so when she stopped, I fell back and hit the ground, and I reached up and grabbed something soft in my hands up between her back legs. And whatever I had, I twisted and pulled with both hands and tried to pull off whatever I had and wrap my legs around her head and neck, and whatever I had, I was trying to tug off. She started to buck like a bronco and roll around the mountainside and just squeal like a deep squeal of a pig.
Oh my gosh.
And then I let go, and she ran down the mountainside towards where her cub went, just squealing like a pig. When I grabbed her, if I didn't grab her, would she have continued trying to eat me or chew on me? I don't know. I mean, I never really thought about that. It's more of, I'm here today, so don't worry about what could have been, what should have been.
Right.
It's because I did everything right because I'm here today. So, and the bear, she didn't do anything wrong. She was, honestly, I have nothing against her. She was just being a bear and protecting her cub. So I just need to suck it up and move on. So she ran off. At this point in time, I'm laying there and I was feeling my face, and my left eye was hanging out of the socket, hanging down. My right eye, I was touching. I couldn't find my right eye.
Oh,
there was
man.
piece of skin hanging down kind of where my nose was. I think it was probably part of my eyebrows or something, and it was dangling there. And then my whole right side here was all like my eye was smashed, crushed up into the eye socket was kind of turned up and then my forehead. I didn't think I had a right eye. And my ear was removed, and then this whole chunk of my head was removed. And my fingers, I mean, I had massive holes in my hands, well, golf ball size, and they fingers going different ways. Like I think I broke a few fingers. Well, I did, but they were sticking out, and
Like the bone was sticking out, or just your fingers were pointing.
Well,
in the
there's
wrong
some
direction?
big holes, and they were just broken
Yeah.
and sticking. On my left hand here, the bones were kind of sticking out. That's where she crushed my finger in her mouth, so it is all titanium now. So I knew relatively where I was on the mountainside, and I tried to stand up, and I couldn't. I ended up just crawling down the mountainside to my packing gear, and I found my gun right away, and I started to panic because I couldn't put a shell in the chamber.
Bear's gone.
Bear's gone. Well, yeah, yeah, she's gone.
Okay, and now you're crawling down the mountainside.
Yep.
Okay.
And I found my packing gear right away, and I found my gun. So I grabbed my gun and I tried putting a shell in the chamber, but on my rifle there's a clip, and you can slide a shell in and get it into the chamber if you had the dexterity in your fingers, and if you could see, you could drop one into the tube, I call it. But it would hit the, I don't know, the front part of the gun, and it would just fall where the clip went. And I tried a bunch of times, and I was really panicking because I needed the clip because the shell kept falling out. And so I was feeling around the mountainside, and I found this chunk of flesh, a little bristly, and well, it was flesh, and it was the corner of my mouth and goatee and that. And I found a large chunk of my scalp.
Wait, where was this at? Where did you find all this at?
Just on the ground, scattered around on the mountainside.
But you're hardly able to see at this point.
Yeah, I'm just feeling around, and I found something that was like almost like a hide feeling. Like anyone's ever worked with deer hides.
I mean, what are the chances? What are the chances of you finding that? That's unbelievable.
Maybe she didn't like what she was eating, and she spit it out. Oh my
gosh!
I don't know.
Yeah. Wow.
And I found another chunk of my head, and like some hard stuff. So I'm pretty sure it was probably part of my ear and a chunk of my head. And
you're the only person that I think in history that I don't know if I'm ever going to talk to anybody else that can tell me that they found a chunk of their head on the ground.
And then I managed to find the clip, and I slammed it in the gun, and then the first thing around me that was dark got 3 rounds. I just shot at the first thing that was dark, and from there was kind of debating like what's going to happen. I mean, I'm over 12 kilometers from my truck. I can't see. Like everything's all so fuzzy. I only got and in order for me to look forward, I had to hold my left eye, and like I'm bleeding profusely out of my head, my hands, my side, my knee, my inner thigh. Right thigh had a big bite mark in it. Big bite mark on my side, and I'm sitting there kind of assessing the situation, and blood's pouring out. Like, what do you do, right? I knew at that point, I was going to die. I was going to die there on that mountainside all alone. Knowing that I really screwed up, and I mean, what do you do? Like, do you try to endure the endurable? Do you lay there and just let things happen, or do you end it on your own terms? So I grabbed my rifle and I loaded it up and put the butt of it against the ground, and I put my chin on the barrel, and I was thinking about my wife and daughter. My daughter's only 8 months old, and my wife, she was first true love. I met her back in high school, and so I was never going to see her again. I was never going to watch my daughter grow up, graduate. I was never going to be able to kick the first boyfriend out of the house and walking down the aisle. And I was thinking all that, and just I pulled the trigger, just like that, and the gun just went click, At first I was a little confused on what happened. And I grabbed the barrel of the gun and pulled it aside, and I reached down with my left hand to cycle the bolt again, and the bolt was pretty tight, and I managed to open it. And as soon as I pulled the bolt open, the gun fired, and
Oh man.
it just sent the bullet just inches from the side of my face. That scared me. I was thinking to myself, like, what am I doing? Like, this is like I owed it to them to at least try to make it somewhere where they're gonna find me. You know,
Yeah.
my wife deserved quick closure, and where I was, no one was gonna find me there. Like I need to at least make it across the drainage where more people go, and yeah, and so I picked up with pieces of my face off the ground that I found, these chunks, and took a sweatshirt, and I put the neck of the sweatshirt around my head, and I put the layer of the pieces of my face in there and folded it up, tied a knot underneath my chin to help hold my jaw up because all the skin was ripped off on the left-hand side of my jaw, exposing all my teeth and that, and my jaw was kind of almost like hanging there. So to keep it up, I tied a knot underneath my chin as tight as I could to hold it up, and then two knots in the back of my head to help hold my head straight. Because everything in the back of my neck and base of my skull, it was extremely raw and extremely painful. My things were pretty crushed. So when I tied those two knots in the back of my head, it just helped hold my head up straight where it didn't hurt as much. And then I tried to stand up, and every time I stand up, I'd fall right over. All the ligaments in my right leg were severed at the knee. Anytime I put weight on there, I'd just topple over, and I kept getting up, kept trying, and eventually got to the point where I can take a step. I would take a short step with my left leg forward, and then I'd slide my right leg forward with using my hand, or kind of shuffle like a zombie walk, and use my rifle as a cane and try to hold myself up.
Are you having? Is there a concept of time when this is happening? Are you able to gauge like how much time is going past as all this is going on?
No, everything was going extremely slow. Like
Yeah.
everything was in slow motion. I was able to kind of calm right down and focus, and it just everything was passing by extremely slow. So
Yeah.
like taking a step felt like 10 minutes.
How
kind
much
of thing.
time passed from the attack to where you decided that you were gonna try to end it all?
Maybe from the last part of the attack to now till trying to end it all, probably, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes.
Wow.
Like it just slow because you're sitting there and just kind of in
Yeah.
shock. Like, what do you do? Like, what happens next? Like when you die, do you just pass out? Do you fall asleep? Does it hurt? Like I was just kind of like the unknown, and that probably what pushed me to pull the triggers because I don't know that. What do you do in that period of time, or how does that happen, right? Like I think that's what scares us all is what does that look like?
Are you a spiritual person?
No, nor am I religious.
Yeah.
But everybody's got to believe in something, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I believe that for sure. Yeah. So anyway, so this happens and now you're kind of crawling away.
Trying to at least walk. But the first 10 feet of the trail goes down a mountainside. Right in front of me there was a cliff that dropped probably 60, 70 feet to a creek. On my left side there's the drainage I just walked up that was probably 40, 50 foot drop, not straight down, but kind of more of a 85% kind of grade. And the trail I was on was probably like a, I don't know, 35% type grade, and just kind of going down the hillside. But I got, 10 feet down that drainage, and I lost my footing, and I fell and I rolled into the drainage, and then down around the corner of the drainage, probably 200, 300 feet down, head over heels down into some large boulders, and I found myself face down, laying next to a creek. Well, I can hear the creek anyways. laying face down on these boulders. My right arm was stretched out. I had a gun. My gunsling was wrapped around my right arm and around my head, and my left arm was kind of stuck back more towards my center body. And I remember just laying there, and I go to do like a push up to try to get up, and just the pain. I couldn't even move. It was horrible. I tried to turn sideways because it's really uncomfortable laying face down on a bunch of big boulders, and I tried to turn sideways, and the pain just shooting through everything. Like I just couldn't move, and my left hand managed to pull my phone out of my pocket to send my wife a final goodbye. That message, it read, "I tried, honey," and I knew she wasn't going to get it until they found the body, and I had come to terms with that was really as far as I was going to make it in the bottom of that drainage. And I sent that message, and then I tried to play some music. And the song that came on actually when I was laying there was Baby Shark, a song that I was playing for my daughter the night before while putting her to bed.
Oh man.
And like all things, it was on repeat. So just laying there listening to that over and over and over again gave me the strength to actually roll over onto my side and to reach up for that first rock that was, probably a foot away. And I pulled myself to that rock. And then I'm like, okay, well, I got enough energy, I can reach to the next one. And so I started to just
Wow.
pull myself up the mountainside. And then I was only focusing on what I could achieve at that time, setting like little mini goals, like, hey, I can make it to that rock. And then when I achieved each one of these little mini goals, it just gave me the strength to go a little bit further and a little bit further. Maybe I can make it to the next rock, or maybe I can make it to that bush. And I was only focusing on, 3 feet, 5 feet, 10 feet in front of me, something that I could achieve. And in life, there will be lots of dark times. I mean, no one has a perfect life. And so when you're in those dark times, you got to remember what's that one piece of inspiration that keeps you going. That's what I call what is your rock that gets you going through those hard times. And just remember that because that'll help you get through anything. Because I mean, my rock was my family. And one of the things that helped trigger that was the song Baby Shark, because I love my daughter and I want to see her again. And that power of that just gave me the strength just to reach up to just to bear through that pain, that unbearable pain there and just keep going. And eventually I made it to the top of that hill and I was able to get to my feet again. And then I was like, okay, I can make it to that tree over there. And then that stump. And it was just more of the whole entire way. I was only thinking about that 10 feet. I can make it to there. I can make it to there. Now I'd fall over, and I fell in a creek. There's a creek you had to cross 11 times just because the way it meandered through the trail. And I'd fall into the creek and I'd just be laying there and I'd pull myself out and okay, I can make it to that rock or I can pull myself up to that bush. That's all I was thinking about was just 10 feet. And I never thought I was ever going to make it to the truck. I mean, my goal is just to make it somewhere further down the trail where they'd find the body sooner. It wasn't until about 1 kilometer from the truck, there's these two big rocks, or a little bit bigger than a shoebox, and they sat out on the trail. And these two rocks are, insignificant to anybody. But for 17 years, when I ride my bike into there, I'd almost hit these rocks and fall over. And one kind of sat partly in the trail, one was slightly off, and I hated those rocks. But in 17 years, I was too lazy to move them out of the way. But I tell you, I've never been so happy in my life to see those two rocks. I just, when I saw them, I was like, I'm going to make it. And that was the only point in time that I ever thought I was ever going to make it. And so I, gave my hand a little kiss and touched the rocks. And I fumbled the rest of the way out, got to my truck. And from there was a 22-kilometer drive for help.
What? Are you? Oh my gosh!
It was on a dead end gravel road.
Can you see? I'm just trying to picture. You virtually lost your vision completely, right? Up to this point.
Yeah. So everything was really blurry. In order for me to look forward, I had to tilt my head way back or hold my eye in my hand. When I hopped in the truck, first thing I did was push the the side mirror away because I didn't want to see what I looked like, and I pulled the rear mirror off. And I started up the truck. And I remember looking out the windshield, and I couldn't tell where the hood ended and where the road began. And I rolled down the driver's side window and looked out the window, and I couldn't tell where the ground was. I mean, everything was just blurry. And in front of me,
Well, I'm curious. So you were saying earlier how you were just trying to get to a spot where you could die, but you've made it to your truck now, right? Was this like the motivation now that you're in your truck? Like, let's just see how much farther I can continue to go. Because your wife's going to probably find you at the truck, right?
Probably, yeah. And I was just thinking when I got to my truck, maybe I'll drive down the road and somebody will find me.
Yeah.
And then maybe I won't have to go as far. And sitting in that front seat, all I could see was dark green on either side and a light spot in the middle, and everything was so fuzzy. I just aimed for the light spot, figured that was the middle of the road. I mean, because you got tall spruce trees there, and they kind of almost, I won't say overhang the road, but they're on the edge of the road going straight up. So it just looks like I don't know, kind of like a light strip.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just aimed for that. And yeah, when I got there, but I was thinking, like, where am I going to go? Like, when I started driving, like, where am I going to go?
How are you able to comprehend which? I mean, I could just see getting in a truck, and you can't. How did you even know what direction you were facing?
Well, because every time I hunted there, I park in the same way, same spot, I face the same way. Like, always driving in the middle of the night. And I mean, half the time I don't ever remember getting to the place where I hunt sheep or getting home. I think it's just all by muscle memory. I
Yeah.
mean, it
Yeah.
happens so many times that
Okay.
I'm gonna chalk it up to muscle memory.
Yeah.
Um, and I just remember when I was driving, I was like, I hope somebody's on the road here coming, right? Because I don't know where I'm going. And every time I feel it get really rough, I would try to go in the direction where it got smoother. And so I was thinking, like, when it was really rough, I was riding in the ditch and
Oh,
hitting
man.
trees and stuff. So I'd go,
Holy cow!
so I go to the middle of the road where it's
What?
nice and smooth. Um, and this road's not exactly straight. One side of the road for a majority of it is a cliff going off down, and there's just like a cable guardrail, like there's a post every 10 feet and just a cable going through it. It's really just like to say, hey,
Yeah.
if you hit that, you're going over.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a couple quick switchbacks, and I made it all through that. On a good day, going 50, you could probably do it in 20 minutes. That's if you're really good tires and you know how to drive on gravel. It took me about 45 minutes to an hour to drive it.
That's not bad.
No, not too bad.
That's pretty good, considering the situation you were in.
Yeah, it was not bad at all. And I thought I destroyed my truck because I mean it was pretty rough, and I thought I was hitting things. But when they picked up my truck, they said there wasn't really a scratch on it,
What?
except for the inside was covered in blood and everything. But and my radio was cranked up extremely loud because Baby Shark was playing on repeat. And when I got to my truck, Baby Shark still played, and it was, I guess, full blast.
Wow. Did you lose any
Well,
hearing? I mean, just from the attack?
yeah, I lost quite a bit on my right side here. I've lost a fair bit of my hearing loss because the gun going off right beside there, and plus with the bear pulled out and all the damage in my left ear. Uh, like I can't wear certain headphones because they won't go in. Like they just fall out because the ear canal is closed off quite a bit because of all the surgeries and put things together, all the scar tissue and that. So yeah, I've had quite a bit of hearing damage. But what do you do, eh?
Oh my gosh. Where did the truck end up?
So it ended up at a place called Panther River Resort. It was basically the first resort when you're coming out. Not, it's a resort. They have like cabins you can stay in and tents that you can stay in. You can rent out and go horseback riding. So I pulled into the parking lot there, and I tried to park in the parking lot, but I couldn't get between two vehicles because I couldn't tell. So I drove past the employees only sign and no vehicles allowed sign. And I drove right up to the lodge and parked my truck right at the base of the at the ramp going in. And I actually, this is not a lie, I felt quite bad driving past that sign and blocking off the ramp, getting up to their place. I don't know
That's
why.
unbelievable. That's unbelievable.
Like I was so you know, I got out and I had my wallet and my keys to my truck and my cell phone, and I walked into the place, and the first person to see me was a 9-year-old boy. He was actually at the window, and he saw me kind of hobble past, and I looked like a zombie at the time. And anyways, I opened up the door, and the two ladies standing there were like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got mauled by a bear. I need some help." Um, and they asked if
So
I need any.
you were able to speak?
I was so partway out. I got to an outfitter's tent, and I managed to put my jaw back in place and tape up some of my face with bounty sheets and toilet paper. And I managed to kind of wrap my face up to stop the bleeding in my face and hands. And so I walked into there, I looked like a zombie. You know, I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt and bounty sheets and toilet paper wrapped all over my face, trying to hold it all together. My hands are taped up, you know, all covered in blood and everything and dirt and all kinds of crap. Um, so I was able to talk, but almost like a mumble talk.
How much time has gone by since the attack to now?
This is so I got attacked at. Well, I took the picture of the selfie at 9:36 a.m. This is probably around 5 o'clock.
What? What? That's that. Wow, man. Okay.
And so, like the ladies, they were freaking out, and they asked me, like, you know, do you need anything? And I said, yeah, I need a glass of water, medium temperature, no ice, and a straw. I guess, yeah, that's how I like my water. So
You really said that to him?
that's the first thing I said. I like a glass of medium temperature water, no ice, and a straw.
Wow.
And so they got me that, and then I handed them my wallet and my keys to my truck and my phone. I said, call my wife. Her name is Joyce. And I told them my name. And I think I gave my Alberta healthcare number at the time too, because they needed that. Like I was rambling off stuff and they're writing it down. And then they're
Had
on
you
the
been
phone.
thinking what you were gonna say like this whole time? I mean,
yeah, I was
if
totally
you met up to
preparing.
somebody, you like
Yeah,
you
I
had
wrote a
already
little-
you already knew like if I see somebody, this is what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I wrote a little script out. You know, I was just gonna. No, I had no clue.
Yeah.
It just was
Oh
more
man,
like-
I that just blows my mind that you would say all that stuff.
Well, I mean, when you're in a situation, like you got to give them information so they can help you. You want to know your
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
And I wanted to call my wife to let her know that I made it just in case she got the text messages because some of the text messages I sent her were pretty awful. And I just wanted to let her know that I was all right. And I wanted to tell these people who my name was, you know, like my truck's parked out back, it's on the ramp. I'm sorry. Here you go. Here's my keys. Here's my wallet. Just so they have all the information for me. So if I do pass out or die at this point, at least they know who I was. It's just a weird thing. I don't know. I was shockingly calm, I guess. From what the ladies tell me, they were at the lodge. That they said I kept them calm because I wasn't freaking out. They were running around, calling stars, calling for the ambulance. You know, dialing 911, trying to get stars, trying to get an ambulance. They were having no luck because the ambulance couldn't figure out where we were because we were in the middle of nowhere. And Stars was busy at the time. That's our air ambulance, the helicopter. We have two in Alberta, but they were both busy, unable to assist. So of course, they were panicking because here's a guy, you know, in their lodge that's bleeding to death, and they're freaking out. So I kept telling them, like, hey guys, just like stay calm. It's okay. I'm fine. I'm just missing my face. So just I need you to focus. And I told them that, like I said, you know, I'm just missing my face. It's no big deal. Just calm down. I'm okay. So they managed to make a right decision, and they called for a private helicopter, which the owner of the place owned a helicopter, and he was, you know, about a half hour or so away. So he hopped in his helicopter and flew out there. While we're waiting for him, they moved me to my truck and parked me out back by the helipad. And I'm sitting there at the truck. I'm in the passenger seat, and you know, I got ADHD, and I hate sitting around doing nothing. And so they had this young lady who was had the door open. She was leaning against the door, and she was supposed to be there to, you know, if I pass out, to go holler at somebody. I'm not sure. But she was there, and it was like I was asking her questions like, you know, what's your name? How old are you? You know, what do you like to do for fun? and I was getting like one word answers out of her, like, and she just wouldn't keep eye contact. So I don't know what was going on there. Um, and I tried to like tell her, hey, can you take off my boots because my feet were hurting, and she started to, and then the other lady was yelling at her like, don't take off his boots, just leave him alone, just like, can you at least open that bottle of Gatorade? So they opened up some Gatorade for me, and I was drinking that, and then they told me it's gonna be like a half hour till the helicopter gets here. And so I got out of the truck and opened up the back door of my truck, and I tried grabbing my fly rod out because I was going to do some fishing. There's a creek right there, and it's really good for fishing, and I just
Wait,
wanted
what?
something to do. Yeah,
Really?
I did.
Is that
I
true?
had to, like, yes, it is. I had to like half out, and this lady Amanda come out, and she's like, "What the f are you doing?" I'm like,
What?
"I'm going fishing," and she's like, "No, you're not." I'm like,
Were,
"Yes."
were, were
there's a
you were
nice-
you hallucinating? Were you out? I mean, what was?
No, I was having an argument with her, and I had my fishing rod trying to get it out to go fishing.
Like really actually go fishing in this
Really,
moment?
actually go fishing. Yeah,
Like
'cause
this
I mean,
isn't like a coping mechanism. This isn't like maybe it is, maybe it isn't.
I mean, I got time. I mean, I'm waiting for a helicopter.
Oh, wow, man.
Like
Wow.
the helipad was literally 15 feet from the creek, and we were parked right at the helipad, so I had like a 20-foot stumble to the creek, and I was hell bent on I was going to go fishing, and I was arguing with this
Wow.
lady called Amanda, and she's like, "No, just get back in your truck and just sit there, like just." I'm like, "Okay, like relax, it's okay." So then, I got back in the truck and sipping on my Gatorade, really disappointed because I could probably caught one or two fish before the helicopter. I would have
Oh,
tried.
jeez.
Helicopter lands, and I mean, I can't see. Like like I said, it's everything's so blurry, and I can only see the one with the one eye. And so, anyways, this helicopter lands, and I go to get in, and the whole back seat is like a big blue tarp, right? So, I don't know why they put a tarp in there. Maybe because I was bleeding all over the place, but so.
I bet that's the reason. Yeah.
I get in this real fancy helicopter. It's got 4 seats in the back, two in the front. And so we take off. Everybody's got these little headsets on, and I got nothing. I mean, yeah. Uh, so I'm sitting there and I'm looking out the window because I'm like, we're in a helicopter in the mountains and there's nice scenery. So I'm trying to look out the window, and I mean, I can't see nothing, but I'm trying, I'm trying to move around, look out the window. And every time I lean over, I get this real sharp pain on my left side. And I turned to look, and Amanda'd be sitting there, and she'd be looking at me, and she pulled this big blue tarp up over her face. And I was like, "Well, screw you! Like I'm looking out the window then." So I'd lean over, look out the window, and I'd feel this poke again, and I look at her, and this blue tarp would come back up. I'm like, "I ain't playing peekaboo. Like, what's going on?" I didn't realize this at the time, but when I was trying to look out the window, it looked like I was passing out. And so she was poking me and pinching me, trying to wake me up. And then when I turned to look at her, she'd pull the tarp up because I'd cough and squirt out blood all the time. So she's pulling the tarp up to protect her. But it
Oh,
literally
no.
looked like we were playing peekaboo. And
Oh
I still
my gosh.
bug her about that today because it was funny. Like at least 3, 4 times, I turned and she'd pull the tarp up. I'm like, what are you doing?
Oh my gosh.
So then we land the helicopter in Sundre at the hospital. And I remember the helicopter landed, and you can just see a bunch of people with a gurney just kind of like doodling down, like, "Yay, we got to be here for this kind of thing." They weren't. No one was really excited. Just like another day at work. Uh, my helicopter door opens up, and I turned and looked at the person who opened up the door, and I said hi. And then that's when everybody just started going crazy. A doctor tried cutting back behind the helicopter, but we had an open tail rotor, so he
Oh
was
my
running
gosh.
to run around. Amanda was sitting in the back seat beside me. She jumps out, dives underneath the helicopter, takes out this doctor, like rugby tackles him, and knocks him down. She's trying to hold everybody back.
What?
The pilot's trying to shut things down. The co-pilot's jumping out, trying to stop people because like it was just mad chaos. And they're trying to pull me out of the helicopter, but my right leg now was seized forward, and I had to lift it up over the seat to get out to turn, and I couldn't do it. So then I was like, I'm trying, and Amanda's like, just leave him alone. He can get out. Just leave him be. And I managed to kind of turn slightly, and this little nurse, maybe 5 feet tall, 5 foot 2-ish, picked me up like I was nothing and slid me out backwards out of the passenger door of the helicopter. And
Wow.
they laid me in a gurney and brought me into the hospital. And then from there, they threw me in an ambulance. and shipped me off to Calgary, which is where I live, to the Foothills Hospital. And I arrived there pretty late in the evening. Um, yeah, I rode into there, and from there, into surgery, and then surgery into I was in the burn unit for 5 weeks, um, in recovery, and then from there, out running around like a crazy maniac.
I mean, from what I saw, the pictures to what you look like right now, they've done an amazing job.
They did. I mean,
it's legitimately next level stuff. I mean,
it's very good.
Based on what you're describing to me, it doesn't. I mean, that's unbelievable.
What was really funny, right before I would go to get out of the hospital, the surgeon that stitched me up, did the 2 surgeries, and then he went on holidays for 2 weeks. And then he was back, and there's a picture of me on the wall with my wife and daughter just before the bear attack. And he looked at it and he says, I could have done a better job if I had this picture. It was really good. Like, that doctor was awesome. Partway through, this part of my head here on the right side, kind of from, I guess, my forehead to partly to the back, that was all removed, and that was it was just skull and skin, or skull and meat, no skin. They didn't know what to do with that till September 24th. They brought me in for surgery, and they tried taking a chunk of my head here and moving it over, because skin doesn't grow on bone. It needs blood flow. And that piece of my head started to die, so they moved it back, and then they took a chunk of skin off my leg, and they covered, just to cover it up, because I mean, you just can't have bone and meat there sticking out forever. So they did that. They closed it up, and the next day, I decided I'm going out with my friends. I had a hall pass from the hospital, so you get to go out for the day, and we went out to the shooting range, and they came and picked me up, my buddies, and they got my guns, and they picked me up, and so we head up to the shooting range, and I got this huge Band-Aid. I got drains hanging from my face, and I'm all cross-eyed, and I can't see very well because my eyes are so swollen up. And we walk into the gun range, and I'm looking a little like I shouldn't be there. And we shot guns for a couple hours. And then I got back, and I had my target with me, and I was so happy. I had my target in my hand because I can actually hit something at 50 yards, or maybe it was like, 50 yards. And I was hanging up on the wall, and the charge nurse comes in, and she's like, "Oh, so what did you do today?" Because she came and check on me right away. And I said, "Oh, I went to the shooting range, and I could hit something, And she's like, "You're going to the shooting range in your state with your head the way it is?" I'm like, "Yep." And she's like, "Don't leave your room." I'm like, I didn't know what was going on. About a half hour later, here comes my doctor who stitched me up, who said he could have done a better job. He walks into the room, and he says, "Where'd you go today?" I said, "I went shooting guns." He goes, "Oh yeah? Where?" I said, "Oh, I went to this indoor range, and I could hit a target." And I showed him. I was so proud of myself. He's like, "How's your head feeling?" I'm like, "It's still there." He goes, "Does it hurt or anything?" I'm like, "Nope." He's like, "Okay, awesome job, dude. Have a nice day." And the nurse is like, "Aren't you going to do anything?" He goes, "Nah, if you can get out, go and shoot guns and not have anything hurt, he's doing pretty good."
Oh man, wow. So were you normally this determined? Are you a determined type person? Like, I feel like other people would have legitimately given up. Like, they never would have tried.
Yeah, there's not a lot of things that get in my way. I always try to find a way around. If I can't do something, or there's a roadblock, I've always tried to get around. That's how I am, I guess.
I mean, it's got to be a personality thing with you, that determination came through, that pulled you through all of that to a degree, I would say. Like, I mean, you just somebody that goes through something like that and is able to push themselves through that and hike. Would you say 12 kilometers out to the
12.8 kilometers? Yep, to the truck.
Yeah. What is that, like? Probably 9 miles or something.
7
miles.
7.8 or something like that.
Okay, so almost 8 miles out. I mean, I hike a lot, and that's. I mean, you did that in what, like in 9 hours, something like that?
Something like that.
That's incredible. In your state? I mean, you've got to have some sort of a personality, something in you that sets you apart from other people to give you that level of determination to be able to get out of something like that. I mean, just naturally within you that you probably, maybe you knew you had, maybe you didn't.
Yeah, I think maybe it's stubbornness too, a little bit.
All right. What was it like when you saw your wife and daughter?
Oh, that was amazing. I mean, my wife was there at the foot of the bed from day one, and I couldn't see for probably the first 2 weeks in the hospital. My eyes were swelled right shut, and when I could, they had to clean them out every day, and I couldn't really see. And it wasn't until late September when I was able to actually make out my wife and daughter. Because, like I said, I physically couldn't see, but hearing their voices and hear my daughter giggle,
Oh man,
that was something. I mean, like as soon as they got me up to the walk, which was, I think, after the first week, they stood me up for the very first time. And my wife came there to see that. And she was hungry and waiting around for the therapist and everybody to show up, and they weren't. So she was going to run down, grab a quick bite to eat. Well, when she left, not even a minute after she left, the nurses and the physiotherapist come in to help get me up on my feet. So here I am, they get me up on my feet, and I'm on a walker. And they want me just to walk to the end of the bed or the end of the room and come back. I mean, the room's probably, 15 feet maybe. So I got up on the walker. I took 3-4 steps. I got to the end of the room, and then my wife wasn't there, and I really wanted her to see me walk again because I was actually afraid that she was going to leave me because I look like a monster. Who wants to be married to somebody in my state, right? And like that's all those things that go through your head and that you're laying there every day with. And they're like, okay, come back to the bed. And I'm like, screw that. So I pushed to the doorway. I managed to get the walker to the doorway, and they're like, don't push it. I got out in the hallway, and I got about 30 feet down the hall.
wow.
And my wife was walking up the stairs, and she comes around the corner, and she sees me in the hallway on my walker. And I was trying to give it all I got because I wanted to show that I could still do it. And it was a very emotional moment. I didn't make it back to my bed without a lot of help, but I just pushed just to prove to her that, and to prove to myself that I can do it. And so every day from that point, I would get up. They would bring me the walker right after I ate breakfast, and I would try to walk around the unit by myself with the walker. And it used to take me from breakfast till lunch to do one lap. So I did that every single day until the day they released me. I was able to walk around that unit in 12 minutes.
Wow. Yeah. That's awesome.
Now today I can walk around that whole entire unit in less than a minute. So just to tell you how much it's taking me 3.5, 4 hours to do it in 12 minutes. And then now to do it in 45 seconds.
Man.
It'd be equivalent to walking down 3 aisles in the maybe 4 aisles in the grocery store. So if you're in a Safeway store, just 4 complete aisles, or basically the width of a 24-hour Walmart with a grocery in it. If you walk across the long way, that would be roughly the walk that would be around the whole unit.
Oh my gosh. What's life like? What's life like today for you?
Pretty much the same. I mean, there's some limitations that I have. I don't let them stop me. Like making a fist, I can't make a really tight fist in my hands. My pinky sometimes sticks out when I close my fist, so I have to push it in. Sometimes it cooperates, sometimes it doesn't. My eyes don't fully close, so this is me sleeping. I mean, it's wicked for babysitting. I gotta tell you,
I bet.
it's when you have kids and you can babysit.
What's your vision like?
2023. So my vision's good, but my eyes are a different height because they replaced my eye sockets with titanium in that. And so they're slightly out. And if I take my glasses off, people look two-dimensional, like flat. When I put their prism glasses, so they help see.
Okay.
It just makes things a little more detailed.
Wow.
Yeah, I can still walk and all that. Like I'll never be able to run another 5-minute mile again because, well, I'm just too beat up and too many steel parts. But I mean, just because I can't run a 5-minute mile doesn't mean I can't ride a bike a 5-minute mile. I mean, I can still do it, just a different means of doing it.
Have you gotten back out to hunt?
48 hours after being out of the hospital, I went right back at it.
Oh man, I knew you were gonna say that. I knew you were gonna say that.
You
Have you
can't
had
let-
another bear encounter?
I have actually. This last year, 2023. It's been so the book came out in 2022 in September, and I spent that whole entire fall and winter doing podcasts and interviews. So I had very limited time to hunt. And last year, same thing, anniversary of the book. So everybody wanted to talk to me and interview. So I had very little time to hunt. And we were moving to a new place. So we moved out to an acreage out in the country. And so there's some crown land close to us. It got called the Porcupine Hills. So I was it the second day of hunting season. I was like, I'm going to go out hunting. It was the weekend, and the wife said, "Yeah, I'll look after the kids. You go ahead and go hunting because it's the first time." Uh, so I never hunted there before. Looked on a map, kind of figured out this is the area where the deer are going to be. So I got out there, an hour before daylight, hiked into a spot. I'm sitting down, looking for some deer. Right at the crack of dawn, I hear like something walking in the snow, and it was like a soft walk, kind of like a person sneaking. I thought it was somebody else walking, and then I hear like this little kind of a almost like a whine growl, like oh, and I just the tone of it. I knew exactly what it was. Like it was just a bear, just a curious bear. And when I looked behind me, there was a grizzly bear less than
Oh
12 feet
man.
away on the other side of the tree. I have seen grizzly bears since the attack. I mean, a year later, we were out hunting sheep and we ran into some grizzly bears, and that was fine. I mean, you always think you prepare yourself, right? That, what am I going to do next time? So this bear's there. I have my rifle. I have my bear spray on my chest. I pop my bear spray out. This bear's 12 feet away. I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm prepared for this, right? Like, I've seen this. I played this a million times in my head. What I'm going to do, spray the bear, shoot it, whatever. And that bear was there, and I froze. Like, I just didn't know what to do. I was thinking, do I spray it? Will that stop it? Should I shoot it in the head? Will that kill it? But the bear wasn't any threat. He was just more curious. And so we had a standoff there, and he started walking around the tree. So I walked around the other side of the tree, got behind another tree. We kind of circled for about 45 minutes until I got back to my
What?
truck.
Oh my
Yeah, and
gosh.
he was only, he got to the point where he was about, say, 30, 40 yards away. And he just curious, following in my tracks, just a boar, middle-aged boar, just curious more than anything of what I was. And like I said, you think you're prepared for that. So I got home only after being out there for a couple hours, and it's like I was out there like 7 in the morning kind of thing, and I'm back at my house. It's like 10 o'clock, and I come home. My wife's like, "I thought you were going hunting all day." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm done. I don't need to go out hunting anymore." She's like, "Okay, well, I'm going to go and take the kids. We're going to go grocery shopping. We're going to be out with some friends for the day." I said, "Yeah, no problem." I sat on the couch. She came back about 6 o'clock that night. I was still sitting on the couch. I have not moved. The TV set wasn't on, and I was staring at the wall.
Wow.
And she came in front of me. She's like, "Are you all right?" I said, "Yep." She goes, "It's like 6 o'clock at night. Have you eaten anything? Like, have you?" "No, I'm good." Because that late, she's like, "Yeah, it is. Are you okay?" I'm like, "Nope, I'm not." I told her what happened, and we worked it out and did some of our PTSD and mindful training. And that night, I had a couple flashbacks, nothing serious, just little ones, but I was more, I guess, scared. Like the reaction, I froze, and that scared me because I've been through all the training, all the bear awareness, all the how to use bear spray, what to do, and you play it in your head over and over again. And I tell you, that bear standing in front of me there, I broke down. I
Yeah.
didn't know what to do. And so that scared me. So I haven't been back there since. I headed back out to the prairies to hunt again where I could see a bear a long ways away.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, but yeah, I mean, oh,
Your story is incredible. So you've got a book.
I do. It's called Life Lessons Learned from a Grizzly Bear Attack. And I don't have any books with me right now. Actually, I sold all of them on the other day. I'm still waiting for another order from my publisher. And I also do inspirational speaking uh, or keynote. I'm also a keynote speaker. Does inspirational speaking, where I tell people my story and teach them the invaluable life lessons that I learned. Like asking for psychiatric help is not a weakness, but a strength.
Yeah.
When you set small goals, you can achieve incredible things. Don't needlessly abandon your passions in life because of, a bear attack.
Yeah.
And I'm doing more and more work with PTSD. I started up my own charity, registered with the University of Calgary, and my goal is to raise $5 million for research into evidence-based treatment methods. Want to make sure we get it right the first time, or what treatments would work best with that individual, so that we can get it right the first time, so you don't have to suffer through multiple treatments. I guess I wouldn't say suffer, but you have to experience multiple treatments. Because when you put yourself out there having PTSD, it's hard to do once, let alone doing it a second or a third time. But sometimes we need several different types of treatment to be able to overcome our PTSD because they need to work together. And I tell you, when the puzzle pieces come together, man, it's amazing. You feel so much better. You're able to sleep clear-minded. It's amazing. And then there's a second part of that charity to where how do you navigate the complex medical system when you're in there? Because if you have PTSD, it's hard to pick. It's hard to choose, or where do you go? How do you reach out for help? And so
Yeah.
researching how to make it easier for somebody with PTSD or suffering from a mental illness to be able to get the help they need. I had a lot of help, and I want to make sure everybody can get the same kind of help or know how to get access to that same kind of help. So that's my goal, is to raise $5 million, and that $5 million will get invested, and the money generated off that 5 million will run the research. And so this will be there forever because all the money raised will get vested, and only the money generated off of the investment is what runs it. So I only have to ask for money once and never again, and it'll be there forever. And so my goal is to raise, $5 million.
What's your charity? Well, tell us about it. How can we find it?
So the charity is the Grizzly Dude Fund. So if you go on Google and type in the Grizzly Dude Fund, you'll see it. It comes up to the crowdfunding website of the University of Calgary. Also, if you go on to grizzlydude.ca, you can find out more about keynote speaking, what I've been currently working on, and there's links to the charity on there. And you can also order a signed copy of Mauled. I'm sorry, I can't compete with the Amazon shipping, so it's a little bit extra. But if you don't want a signed copy, you can go on Amazon.com and order the book Mauled. I think it's got a 4.7 rating right now currently on there, so it's doing pretty good.
Yeah, I can imagine why. It's an incredible story. Jeez. Yeah, I have one more question for you. And this may seem like an odd question. Maybe it's not an odd question. Maybe you've even asked this before. I don't know. But if you could pull this event from ever happening out of your life. Now, from an outside perspective, you would think, yes, I could totally pull this. I want to pull this out of my life because I don't ever want to be mauled by a bear. But seeing what's happened with your life now, it seems, from at least what I'm hearing, overwhelmingly positive, from being able to do this type of stuff to help other people and all the people that you've been able to help through this traumatic experience. Would you, if you could, go back and pull that entire experience out of your life?
The only thing I would pull out would be the suffering from the PTSD part. I wish that never happened to anybody. That's the one part that I'd hope no one has to go through, not even my worst enemy. But the bear attack part, nah, leave it in there. It may have been it was an event that happened in my life, but I would do it again, knowing the outcome, as long as I didn't have to do the PTSD side, the mental health side. And that's, I'd go fight a bear tomorrow, knowing how messed up I would be. As long as I didn't have to suffer with PTSD, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
I think, I don't know, man. I feel like the struggle that you went with that bear is a way to not only just inspire people but help people in that direction. But I also feel like this long-term struggle with PTSD with you is sort of similar in a way that, even though it's a much longer struggle, the bear attack was a day, right? You obviously had to, recover over several months, probably years and whatever. But this PTSD, I think you've got a big future ahead of you on this thing, helping other people that, like you're saying, that have gone through PTSD to the point where I think, I don't know, that may change. I could see how that could possibly change for you, where you would say, you know, I think I that is something I wouldn't pull out of my life as well, because if I had, I would not be helping all the people that I'm helping with this fund and everything else. And man, you're an amazing person. You are an incredible person. The determination, the strength, what you've been through, your life. I mean, your daughter, she's probably what, 8, 9 years old now, right?
7.
Okay, 7. Yep, I've got an 11-year-old, my youngest, and I can just. I mean, she's obviously heard the story by now, I'm sure, to a degree, right? Yeah. So I mean,
Yep.
I mean, just you're the inspiration that you are is indescribable, and I'm excited for what you've got ahead of you, all the cool stuff. So
And I'm looking forward to what the future brings. Like I've done quite a few podcasts and shared some personal things, and I think this is actually the first place I shared about my wife that day, with the walker, trying to make sure she sees. Like, that was a big moment for me. Um, I share these personal things to let people know that it does get better. And if it helps somebody from jumping off that ledge, that's what I do it for. Even though it's really
yeah,
hard for me, I want to make sure people know that you can get through it. There is
yeah,
dark times, but there's light at the end of the tunnel.
yep,
And to look out for your mental health, like, that's a huge thing for me. Just because you're a big tough dude that goes out and fights bears on the weekend doesn't necessarily mean you're physically fit or mentally fit to look after a family or a young one. You need to be mentally fit first before reaching a hand out or looking after a family. It's like the masks on an airplane. When they come down, put yours on first before assisting others. So treat your mental health the same way. Treat yours before helping somebody else. And that's one of the biggest things, is get that point across, because I know there's a lot of tough guys out there, and I don't mean this in a bad way at all. There's a lot of guys out there that don't want to. They say they're all right, but they don't know how to ask for help, and they're afraid that if they ask for help, it'll be looked down upon. But sometimes reaching out for help when it feels impossible can be the
yeah,
catalyst to
yep,
transformation. It could change your life, and no one's going to hold that against you. It's okay. We all need help at some point in our lives.
yeah. Man, that's powerful, man. And I know you said earlier you're not a spiritual person. I am a spiritual person. I believe fully in God. I believe in heaven. I believe in all that stuff. And man, I just hearing your story, man, I hope you become a spiritual person one day, because I could see God in that whole thing, just protecting you, His hand on you that day, that whole experience, the fact that gun jammed, where you ended up today, all these things, and I think that we're all on this road, and man, I really do hope you become a spiritual. I think God had His hand on you that day in a massive way. And I think that He gave you a second chance, and man, incredible, absolutely incredible. I am so grateful that you gave me this time. I feel honored that you gave me this time, and I really appreciate you, man. I really do. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much, Dan. This was This was great. Thank you.
Imagine you're hiking peacefully on a beautiful trail that you've hiked 1,000 times, except for this time a storm rolls in, and the next thing you realize, you're waking up laying on trail, but your body is literally burning and smoking. This is exactly what happened to my friend Minko Nikolov, who was struck by lightning while hiking in the beautiful mountains of Colorado, and this is his amazing story. Minko, thanks for being here, man. I really appreciate it. Your story's crazy. It's pretty wild. I'm just absolutely astonished by what you went through, and I would love to hear you talk about it. So tell me a little bit about you, what you were doing out there, sort of share your story, and we can go from there.
Absolutely. So my name is Minko. I have lived in Colorado for 12 years, and I call Colorado home. Since very young age, I'm a rock climber, and I love the mountains, and that's why I'm here in Colorado, just to go rock climbing and enjoy the weekends.
So where are you originally from?
I was born and raised in Bulgaria. I got the love for the mountains there, and ever since I moved to America to go to college, I'm just an outdoor advocate. I love camping. I love being outside, and I try to spend as much time outside as possible.
So tell me about that day. Tell me what you were doing. Tell me you were hiking out. You decided to climb, and what happened to you?
It was probably around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I really wanted to go climbing. I really, really wanted to go climbing, and I drove to Rocky Mountain National Park, and I was there on the parking lot around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And right when I parked, this huge storm came in, like a hailstorm, which is very typical for August. I think once you live in Western United States, Arizona, Utah, or Colorado, you always have the afternoon showers. But after that, sunshine and rainbows and everything dries out, and it's really good. So that's what I did. For any of your listeners that never been there, Rocky Mountain National Park is a very popular place.
Yeah.
It has a lot of hiking, a lot of tourists. And where we go climbing, it's above tree line. There's the most popular location is Bear Lake parking lot, and you start hiking from there. And after the storm, everything clear, and I start my hike. It takes about 45 minutes for a fit person, maybe 2,000 feet of elevation, and you go up to almost 10,000 feet.
Oh, wow.
I start my hike, and on the way up, I saw two of the climbing rangers that I know for many years. They were going down, and they were extremely wet from the storm that just went through. And they were like, "Hey, where are you going?" And I'm like, "Hey, I'm going climbing." And they're like, "Another storm started to build up on the other side. Maybe you should reconsider." And I was like, "Oh, it's all good." So I continue my hike, and right around a very famous place called Lake Hayaha, very famous tourist attraction. People go there, get their hike. I went all the way to the lake, and I looked up, and on the continental divide on the other side, I started seeing the clouds build up and the storm coming.
Oh, man.
And from previous experience, I knew I had like 20 to 30 minutes to safely go down. And I had a decision to make. Should I go wait the storm somewhere and wait to climb? But I'm like, oh, it might get late. I need to go home. My folks are at home waiting for me. So I was like, it's all good. I came here. I'm hiking down. And after the first 10 minutes of the hike, virtually where the whole downhill starts, there was a tree, and I had my Gore-Tex jacket in my backpack. And the last thing that I remember is I opened my backpack, I put the jacket, and someone passed me, and that's the last memory I have.
Really?
Pre-lightning. Yes.
Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh.
And then from that point on, everything blinked, right? Like I have no memory until I woke up. And I think that's where the real suffer starts. And after, I've been to that location maybe 35 to 40 times after the accident, which is approaching the 5-year mark. And I know for a certain that from where I put my jacket to where I woke up, it's no more than 2 minutes or maybe 3.
Wow.
So I have a little bit of missing information and what happened. There are a lot of questions that people ask me, like, did your hair got all high and did you feel the electricity? That's something that I don't have memory. I don't have any memory from the complete lightning strike. So maybe it's for good. Maybe it's too traumatic. And
when did you realize I was struck by lightning? I mean, because you didn't hear a clap of I mean, you heard nothing. You didn't see anything. It was just you're there, and then the next minute you sort of woke up somewhere else. Is that how I'm understanding this?
Yeah. So virtually the way it happened, it's a kind of waking up when you're hungover. Your mind comes into consciousness, but you haven't opened your eyes. We do that every morning, right? before we wake up and hear the alarm. But when I lift my head, I was face down. And when I lift my head out, what happened was I just started seeing blood coming down into a puddle of my own blood. And I was covered in blood. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what day it was. And I kind of, the whole thing felt like I'm still dreaming, but I'm conscious.
Yeah.
And it was a large confusion of where I was and why I'm not at home. I really felt like I'm waking up at my house, but I wasn't. I lift my head, I look around, and I recognize the place. And where the largest confusion still to this day is, somehow in my head, I thought it's April, but it was already August.
Oh my gosh.
I couldn't put the events together. I figured out where I was, but I wasn't even sure, is it a dream or is it true and what is going on and why I'm there. There was a lot of blink at the time. And it was a scary, but also so quiet and peaceful moment. And it happened so quick that I was just confused. But as I tried to get up, I couldn't. And I tried to crawl out very barely. And I remember the crucial moment was I pushed myself with my left arm into my bag because I had a large backpack. And at that point, I realized that things are really bad.
Oh, man.
I couldn't feel both of my legs below the feet, below the waist. So my left leg was virtually dangling. The right leg,
Oh my gosh.
it was numb. And at that point, seeing the blood coming from my face, seeing a lot of smoke coming from my body.
Wow.
Because at that point, virtually, I was still burning alive, right? Like, you're getting poured with August rain. It's a little cold. It's probably 9,000 or 8,500 feet of elevation. I was in tree line, but I'm getting pouring rain on me. And just my whole body's smoking. It's burning. And at that point, I thought someone shot me. That was my first conscious thing that I came across. Like, that's what my mind first, because I couldn't move. And I was like, well, I probably got shot, right? Someone, which makes a lot of sense. If you think about the world we live in, someone comes to the park and shoots you, that probably...
A little more likely than getting struck by lightning is what you're telling me?
Yeah, it's like one out of... It's not that uncommon for Colorado now after I've been this fat, but even until that point, I couldn't figure it out what happened to me. And where things start getting even out of control for me and I start coming into conscious and where the warring in my body start to be, I realized I cannot move my right arm. My right arm was completely numb. I couldn't feel it. I grab it with my left arm. I lift it. And I remember that was one of the most horrific beginning of the accident because my whole arm just failed on my chest without me being able to control it. I felt it with my chest. I felt it with the other arm. But I couldn't feel it at all.
Oh my gosh.
And at that point, to be honest, I sacrificed my arm. I knew I lost it.
Oh, jeez.
I knew it was gone. I was looking at my legs, and they were just burning. Zero feeling, zero. Yeah, it was just smoke coming out through you. You can, even through this day, I can still sense the smell of my burning flesh.
Oh, wow.
And that's something that I can still see it with a very bright memory. But at that point, I was on my back. I couldn't move. Both of my legs were done. And I just looked at on my side, and all I saw there was this, I don't know if you're familiar, but long peak, a pretty famous 14er. And I just started looking at the peak, and At that point, a voice came up, and then there was a person standing maybe about 15 feet from me. And I'm like, hey, man, can you come help me get up? And he's like, you know, you got struck by lightning. I was behind you. And that's
Oh, he
when
saw it happen?
he saw the flashlight. He was
Oh
around
my
the corner.
gosh.
Then he saw me laying down on the ground being unconscious. But I was like, can you come and help me? And he's like, I'm sorry, I don't want to get electrocuted. And he was scared to touch me. And at that point, I was like, wow, I'm probably just laying down here and that's it. And that at that point, I think I was coming in and out of consciousness quite a bit. So even if everything seems to me to be only 5 minutes, I was probably there on the ground for over 30, 40 minutes, maybe even over an hour. I've seen some YouTube videos from another YouTuber going down with a GoPro, and he looks at me, and he sent me actually the video, and he's like, well, I don't want to get struck by lightning, and he just keeps going down. But at that time, there were a few people, they were out of state. One of the females had an umbrella, and they were just coming to calm me down and be around me. And I've seen on that video that my face is just covered in blood because I fell and landed on my face. I landed actually on my chin. I bit down the entire lip from inside. And the impact was so hard that my jaw broke and went into my eardrum. So my eardrum was gone too.
Oh my
So
gosh.
just even the impact that I landed was a total destruction. I was bleeding all over my face, ear, and that's a kind of how the story started unfolding. Even to this day, I remember the guy calling 911. One very interesting thing is on that spot of the trail we're going down, it's a wide open area that it's in tree line, but somehow you get 5G service.
Oh, wow.
So I was really lucky that
Yeah.
that person was there. Another person rushed down to the ranger station. And a healthy person can probably hike down for 25, 30 minutes. But I couldn't even move. And the next thing that I remember was the two rangers that I passed on the way down. They were coming up. And they came with search and rescue. They're climbing rangers, very famous guys there. They worked for many, many years. One of them is called Phil. The other one is called Jonah. Jonah is a pretty young guy. And I remember Phil saw me. He has probably 7 or 8 year experience working in the park in search and rescue. He gave me a smile. And I vividly remember my friend Jonah, the other ranger, saw me. He had to walk away. And I was like, wow, I'm probably pretty messed up.
Oh my
If he
gosh.
cannot even look at me. And yeah, they cut down my clothes, put me in like a warm blanket, like one of those foil blankets.
Who called them?
And I think they called 911, and somehow the whole thing got escalated to search and rescue in the park.
So somebody that was behind you, the guy that had 5G service or something like that, must have called search and rescue at that point, or called the Rangers, or did they hear it themselves and come running back up the mountain?
No, I think like there's probably like over an hour and a half between the phone
wow.
call and people coming on the spot,
wow.
because if you think about getting search and rescue, those are volunteers, and being able to organize like
Yeah.
a big rescue on a stretcher, it's very complicated. And at that point in time and place where I was, it's impossible to bring a helicopter.
Oh,
It's
man.
very steep hill. It's very bad spot. So they organized a very big, one of those one-wheel stretcher. They have like a wheel just in front of the stretcher, and that's how they got me down. It was probably 45 minutes, but I still remember once I got on the stretcher, they probably gave me some painkillers. But at that point, sensations, probably the adrenaline started going down. And I remember one of the most excruciating pains in my shoulder start to come into sense. And that was bad. I thought I dislocated my shoulder at that point when I fell. I couldn't even comprehend the complexities of the injury I had. That actually took me probably 5 to 6 days to realize the true impact.
Wow.
And it was, yeah, I remember that was a very, very rough ride down on the stretcher. Like, just my whole body was coming into senses, and everything from the shoulder down hurt a lot. Some things didn't even feel that bad, like a bunch of cuts on my face, that wasn't a problem, but the rest was pretty bad.
It was sort of raining at the time.
Yeah, that's the most interesting part. In my lifetime, I've never even considered the possibility of a lightning strike. I've been in very, like, excruciating in extreme storms, like dark clouds very close to the ground,
Right.
hail, wind in above tree line, hiding under a rock, and I probably have maybe over 120, maybe over 150 days in the high alpine, either on a bicycle or out climbing. And this one was not one of the ones that I consider dangerous. It was just a drizzle. There was not, yeah, I think that day there was only one lightning on that particular storm. I had a friend that was down on the parking lot, completely unrelated to me going climbing that day, but he was also going climbing in the afternoon. We're really good friends. And he saw the lightning from the parking lot.
Oh boy.
And then as he started going up, he learned that someone got struck by lightning, and he came back. I have another friend that also went climbing, and he has seen me on the stretcher, but he didn't know that was me.
Oh wow.
But yeah, I can tell you, like, I got struck on my right shoulder, and the lightning traveled through my body, luckily on the right side. That was the side exposing the open side of the trail. On the left side was the mountain, and the lightning could not exit through both legs. So it got stuck in my left leg, and that's why I have so much damage, which it burns on the leg. And then it actually traveled and exit on the right leg. One thing that it's probably good for us going to the mountains is have like a really nice Gore-Tex shoes with Vibram. That's great. Unless you get struck by lightning, it's a huge insulation to exit, for the electricity to travel and exit.
Really?
It probably protects you. Yeah, it probably protects you if it struck a tree nearby, so it cannot get into your body. But it's really hard to exit. So where the lightning exit was on the side of my foot. So probably I got struck and I fell down, and that's how it exit. But it didn't exit through my heels or through the bottom of my foot where it makes the most sense. It couldn't ground.
Oh my goodness.
It couldn't ground to the ground.
So I'm trying to imagine where you were at. I'm trying to visualize this. So you said there was a mountain on one side of you. How close were you to the mountain, or was it like a wall face there, or what did that look like?
It's a very steep hill that if you and I try to climb it up,
I got you.
Probably will be sweating a lot.
Okay, were you kind of going up some switchbacks?
Yeah, it's mostly switchback.
Okay.
It's just coming through a forest and a kind of still being part of the forest, kind of steep. It's on the side of the mountains and going left to right. Very steep also. I have a picture to send you of the exact spot.
Yeah. I'd love to see it.
I would definitely send you that. But it has trees on both sides that are way taller than I am. It's not the most dense forest. There's a little bit of an opening, but it's not the spot that you and I. If you and I go to the mountains, I think we'll consider that space very safe, and we'll probably not be running from the storm.
Wow, really? So you're thinking out of all the things you could have struck, you struck me.
Yeah, that is.
Oh my
And
gosh.
then there was the speculation when I went to the hospital. It's a rare injury to treat, right? Like it's not like an industrial fire or
Yeah, I'd say
like
so.
a electric accident. But the doctors knew about it, and at first they were a little bit skeptical. They thought the lightning hit a tree nearby and then it bounced on me. But the next day, after the accident, the ranger went out to check it out. He went to the back to the spot, and it was pretty certain that there was no side strike. It wasn't a rebound. It was a direct hit.
Oh my goodness. So tell me what life has, what happened after that? What were the next few weeks and months after that for you?
So at first, I wasn't understanding the seriousness of the injury. I thought like once you make it out, you virtually go get like a check in the hospital and you go home. And to give you a little more overview of what happened, so I went down to the parking lot and they put me on an ambulance. From the ambulance, they drove me to like literally like a middle in the park, and I got picked up by a helicopter and we flew to the closest hospital. I didn't go to bed probably for 36, 40 hours.
Oh, wow.
It was just nonstop. At first, they put dressing on me and cleaned my body, and that's when they evaluated me. Even at that time when I was in the hospital, you could see how I had like this temporary burn marks on my body where you can see how the electricity traveled, and that was still visible, like carving wood.
Oh my
that's how
gosh.
exactly it looks like. So that was something that was still visible on my body. And yeah, the story that I got there was not that optimistic. So I was in critical condition for about 9 days. So I was in the ICU unit. I know from a friend that she's actually currently, as we speak, in Australia. She's an emergency medicine doctor, and she's actually doing a story on me for emergency medicine for accidents that happen outdoor. And I give her a permission to go through my results, and things were really, really bad. Like I was probably having like 20% lung capacity. Everything that you could see was bad, like very low pulse. And at the time, I wasn't realizing that there was so much internal damage of the body that certain measurements were like 19 times higher.
Oh my gosh.
Just like this burn flesh, burn muscles. They're just poisoning your body, and they have to clean it really quick, or your kidneys and liver will just fail. And at that time, I learned that I was probably going to be in the hospital for 30 plus days, like a minimum of 14 surgeries.
Holy cow.
So that was a completely different story. And at first, like, I didn't even realize, like, is that even possible? Like, I was like, well, I don't feel that bad. Why should I stay in the hospital for that long? But it was necessary. And after day 2, when I hit like a little bit of stable physical conditions, I started the surgery journey, and that was every other day. And some of those surgeries are really long too. Like, I couldn't walk. I couldn't even go left or right on my body. I was just laying down on my back. And I was going through surgeries because besides like some of the minor things that I had, which is like a broken jaw, maybe like 10 stitches on the bottom of my chin and maybe another 10 inside of my lip, I hit 30% body burns.
Oh my goodness.
And there's like stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. Mine were really deep. mine were mostly 2, 3, and 4.
Oh my goodness.
So my shoulder is actually partially amputated. 50% of my deltoid muscle is missing, and that's probably good. Where we were like, after the first surgery, they opened the came and told me like, we took 50% of your muscle. You're on day 2. The body dies for another 14 days.
Oh wow.
So next day we go. In 2 days we'll go, and we'll keep cutting. We'll keep cutting.
Oh my goodness.
Until the dying stops. So I went to the second surgery with the expectation that I might wake up with no arm. And the way it works is if they have to take 70% of your muscle, your arm is worthless.
So you were going into surgery. You were going into surgery thinking I might wake up without an arm.
Correct. From the
Oh.
shoulder.
And they weren't. They
Like-
they didn't tell you. They were like, yeah, we're gonna have surgery, but you know, when you wake up, we'll see how it goes. But you might not have an arm.
Yeah. Like
Oh my
that was
gosh.
the conversation before the surgery. They brought like they introduce you to the team before you go to a surgery, and there was like a trauma burn surgeon, like the anesthesiologist, and for that surgery they brought an orthopedic doctor because if they have to take something out, or to chip the bone. There
Yeah.
were like a few scenarios that they walk you through, but they need to tell you that before you go. And at time, like now if we talk about it, it's heinous, it's horrible, right? But at that time, you just want to survive.
Yeah.
You don't,
Yeah.
I mean, if you have the choice, my arm or my wife, I think we all know that we'll give up the arm.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean, better be alive. But since I went home, things changed, and I was on disability for around 100 days. It was very humbling and also a very difficult time to go home. Once you're at the hospital, you're home, like it feels great, but my body did not feel great at all. I had to relearn how to walk. I had to relearn how to move my arm, and that was a very depressing time of the recovery because I couldn't lift my arm, my right arm. Like now I can go climb and I'm in a good shape.
Are you back
but
to normal?
In order, yeah, even like climbing wise, I've climbed even better than before,
Oh, wow.
which is something I've done for 23 years. But in order to get there, it was a terrible moment. Like all the skin that it's not yours, it just shrinks.
Yeah.
It just shrinks so much, and you have to spend the whole day stretching, and then you go to bed and you wake up, and the next day in the morning you can barely walk to the bathroom because everything shrinks again, and it was very depressing. Like I was putting at one point around 4 to 5 hours of working out and physiotherapy a day. Like I'll wake up, I'll do an hour and a half. During lunch, I'll do an hour. In the afternoon, I'll do an hour. And at night, I'll do an hour and a half. And things don't get better. It wasn't rewarding until it started getting better. But yeah, that was not, when you're at your house, like usually there are not that many people around you and you have a lot of time to yourself, and it's not a humbling time.
What are the chances of somebody getting struck by lightning? Do you know what it is?
In the state of Colorado, 1 out of 900,000, which is not that high, to be honest. Like you have, I mean, winning the lottery, it's 1.2 billion, so you can get struck by lightning a lot more.
Have you bought any lottery tickets?
I think I did a few times when it was going to the billions, but I think I got my lottery ticket already. I don't think I'll get another one.
So when you go out now, and it's raining even. I mean, what's going through your mind? Do you suffer from PTSD or anything like that at all? Are you thinking when you're out there like this could happen again? Do you have that fear that comes over you?
I'm a lot more conscious that it's absolutely. I don't believe that I have a PTSD, but I'm a lot more conscious.
Okay.
And that is, I think my risk tolerance has decreased in all aspects of my life. It's not just going outside. Like, I think in an event like that, it's a huge lesson. Like, doesn't matter how strong you feel. It doesn't mean how prepared you are. Everything is chances. You might be the strongest of your lifetime. In the next moment, you might not be able to get out of bed. And that happens. I mean, it's the way you think and the way you accept it, like, if you go back and you blame yourself for the decision to be out there, you might live like a very miserable life, because every time like you go back and blame yourself for something that happened. But I never hit that mentality. I always look into the event like, maybe I survived and now I should live in a different way and be happier than before, because I had that opportunity to survive. And I think that's the approach I've taken. But to go back to your original question, I check the weather a lot more. And I do that quite a bit, because if the weather is not good, there's no glory of being out there, not being able to do the things that you want to do and hike in the rain. But the day that it happened, it was only 20% chance of rain.
Oh, man.
Which is a very low. And I try to do some preventive things, like check the weather before a few times when I'm on the parking lot. So I'm a lot more conscientious about storms. And the other thing is when I go outside, I prefer to either go early in the morning or after the afternoon showers. And I've been stuck a few times by either hail or even other lightning storms outside. And it's a lot more terrifying than it used to be. I still remember, I think it was 2001, and I was in 11,000 feet, place called Lincoln Lake, very high up, very beautiful. But in order to get out of there, it's a quarter of a mile, 900 feet of elevation hike.
Yeah.
Like, it's just
brutal.
like a wall. And I tried it, and halfway through it, the storm came so close. So I ran down and hit below a huge rock, and there were lightnings everywhere. I still remember that day. It's not humbling. It's scary, and you're just out there and try not to worry about it, but it happens.
Have you met anybody else that's been struck by lightning? I mean, is there a group of guys that get together, or you guys all been struck by lightning and you talk about it?
No, I think like sometimes when your coworkers learn, like they're excited. Most of my close friends didn't know about it, so 5 years later, I think the hype has go down. Kind of like we all forgot about it. But I don't know anybody that has been struck.
Man, your story is remarkable. I mean, absolutely remarkable. The fact that you were out in this seemingly safe situation, trees all around you, and then this happens to you. And I mean, so you've been back, you said, to that spot. What's that like for you?
Zero feelings. It almost feels like it never happened. Like I go back there past the spot, like kind of look it up, and it's normal. They've been a few times, like one particular day, it was 2 years after the accident, also in August, and same thing happened, like an afternoon, and a huge storm, like a hail with lightning came in, and it's a lot of talus fields above the tree line, so they get very slippery with water, and they're undefined trails to walk on. And I remember that one was really bad night. It probably, the rain and hail didn't stop for over 3 hours, and it got dark. and I had to go through the same spot, this time running in a hail and lightning storm at dark. And that's probably one of the times that I was like really scared.
Do you feel like because you don't have memory of the actual lightning strike, has that helped you in some way cope with what's happened, or maybe feel safe or not have to worry about it when you go out again as much?
I don't know. I've never thought about it. But yeah, it's a long journey. I think you can get PTSD from the pain after or from the accident itself. I don't know. That's a hard one to answer if that's the case.
What would you tell people who, are out and it's, this is the storm coming in, or what kind of precautions would you give hikers?
Oh, if you watch this video, just don't forget about this story. It can happen to anybody. That's the thing. No one is protected. I think that's the big message. Like, if you think you've been there, you know it all, that's a little arrogance.
Yeah.
And I used to be in that situation. Now I think my level has went down quite a bit of confidence and also arrogance, because we always think that the guy that it happened to, he didn't know what he was doing, right? But you're always the guy who knows what's up. You've been there so many times. You know it. Oh, you've been to this time. But the guy that it happened, that you've heard about on the news, he didn't know about it. He was unprepared and he took too much risk. And I think that's the message.
Yeah.
It's when things happen when you don't expect them.
Well, I'm impressed with your story. I think you're an amazing person. I think you got a pretty crazy story that you can tell. I mean, you're the first person I've ever talked to that's ever been struck by lightning. It's just something you hear about, but it doesn't happen, right? You're never gonna meet somebody. You're never gonna experience anything like that. So, man.
Yeah, and I think depending of where you live, that's a big thing. Like, I realized that I actually lived in the wrong place for that accident. And if you live in Colorado or I think in Florida, chances are way higher than maybe in Minnesota or somewhere in the Midwest.
Well, I mean, you could have been downtown, Denver, right, and been struck by lightning.
Oh, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
And then all of a sudden, you could have been right outside of a hospital and gotten struck by lightning, right? So obviously, your health played a part into that, right? You were fit and healthy, and I think that probably saved your life, maybe even. Because if somebody was unfit or unhealthy, or they had some issues or whatever, and they're out that far and they've got to be transported in, that could have been a totally different story for someone, maybe.
Maybe, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if
That's
you're
crazy.
right, you'll probably be on the couch and watch TV, and you won't expose yourself to all this risk that people take.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. That's a fact. Wow.
So yeah, I think that it's the exposure is a big factor of where you go and what are the things that you like to do.
All right. Any last words that you want to share with the viewers?
Probably the last thing to close. It's even until this day, I don't know if this was a factor, but I did hit an aluminum plate for the spine on my backpack. It wasn't one of those frames that the old school backpacks have, but that's something that definitely check your gear. Maybe don't take your phone.
Is that what they told you? Did they tell you that may have played a part in it?
I don't know. That is something that people don't know for certain. My phone was pretty close to where it struck. It was in the it was in the upper compartment of my backpack. But also, I know that after the shoulder, the electricity did travel through that aluminum frame of the backpack and exit around my tailbone. So I know that some electricity went through that.
Wow.
I just don't know if that was the real factor. And those are things that people don't know. It's very unknown. But once again, try to mitigate the risk.
Yeah, right. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate your time. I'm glad you're alive and you're doing well and you're climbing again, and I just appreciate you. So,
Thank you, sir.
all right, thanks. College professor Karen Klein, her husband Eric, and 10-year-old son Isaac set out on this scenic road to visit the Grand Canyon.
Unfortunately, we got stuck in a ditch.
Karen Klein then left her husband and 10-year-old son to begin a long and dangerous journey in search of help.
Karen headed south, walking for 11 hours until she found an evergreen tree for shelter.
I was afraid to fall asleep. In my mind, if you fall asleep, you freeze to death.
Karen, Izzy, thank you guys for being here. Your story is very similar in some ways to mine, but as I was reading about it, there is an incredible amount of just insane, wild, crazy things that happened. Like, you should have had a movie out about this whole thing.
On the Today Show, when it was first featured, the person at the desk, after the story was over, she said, "So I wonder who's going to play her in the movie."
I was going to say thank you to you, because I really don't like how the media portrayed our story. And this is kind of like a real way of reframing our story, telling it from our perspective instead of the media's perspective. And I appreciate that a lot.
I appreciate that. Yeah, you guys, this is your platform. You share your story. You get it out there. I read it. It's amazing. Tell me from your perspective. Start, you were either you were going to Vegas or coming from Vegas and then going to the Grand Canyon, right?
Yeah, we went to Vegas just for Izzy's 10th birthday, as well as I had gotten promoted at work, and we thought, oh, it'll be over the holidays, let's go to Vegas. And one of the side trips, of course, is, you see the Grand Canyon, Bryce Canyon, Canyonlands. And so we decided to spend, one night in Bryce Canyon just to see what it looks like and swing by I don't know if anyone can ever swing by the Grand Canyon, but we really just wanted we really just wanted to just go and do the touristy thing. And remember, this is 2016, so there were some things that weren't quite in regards to technology, with cell phones and GPS weren't quite what they are today. We admit in retrospect, of course, the things that we didn't do right, and that was investigate our destination. More so, we just put in, Grand Canyon Visitor Center, and our GPS led us what we thought was the way to the visitor center. And the roads began to get, they became dirt roads, and we didn't really see anyone, and we thought, this just doesn't seem right. And we then proceeded to say, look, as we were driving, I should say, that we lost the GPS. Our GPS stopped working. And this is before you just put your phone into GPS mode. It was like a GPS, you used to put them on your car. And after, I would say, maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes of this, we thought, this just can't be right. And we proceeded then to stop the car and turn the car around. And at that point, it had been drizzling, and that's what the weather forecast was. It was for 40 degrees and drizzle. It was December, after all. And we then proceeded to turn the car, attempt to turn the car around, and it was quite muddy, and the road was quite muddy itself, like a unpaved road. And
like
the car
an old
got
Forest
stuck.
Service road or something.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's what it was.
We started at Route 20, Forest Road 22, which is also called Ryan Road, and then we took a left, and we ended up on State Forest Road 226.
For us, we didn't know. We thought, well, maybe this is the way everybody goes to the Grand Canyon, and maybe it's a slow day. We didn't know that this wasn't right. We admit our ignorance, but we thought, well, oh my gosh, it's the Grand Canyon. It's one of the most visited sites in the world. We think this is like Disney World, So, and so we stopped the car and attempted to turn it around, and the car got stuck in the mud. And so we got out of the car, and we thought, okay, well, we'll get the car out. We tried to rock the car back and forth, and it was a some sort of like a rental car. It was a sedan, like your typical.
It was a Kia.
Oh, a Kia?
It was a Kia. I think it was a Forte.
Okay. And we went and gathered branches from the nearby trees, and we put them under the tires, and all of the things that you learn in driver ed. We used the floor mats, and we just couldn't. The car was, it just, in like kind of Murphy's Law fashion, it just kept getting more and more stuck. And we thought there's no way we're getting out of the car, getting the car out of the mud. We said, okay, so, we can't just sit here because nobody knows where we are. We don't have cell phone service, and our GPS isn't working. And we thought because I'm a recreational runner, and I thought, okay, well, there's a main road. It looked like, from what I recall, there was a main road about like 9 miles ahead. So I'll just run up and flag down some help, and then I will have somebody come in and get us. I had a bottle of water and a pack of Cheerios because it was like, 9 miles would probably take me about an hour to run to that main road. There were tire tracks. So I'm like, well, okay, great. So this road is used. And, what I'll do is, instead of standing still just waiting for someone, I thought I would start walking down the road, because I thought, well, at least I'll get cell phone service. So either I'm going to, there'll be a passerby, or I'll get cell phone service, because as I mentioned, oh my gosh, we're here in the environs of the Grand Canyon. Surely there's cell phone service. And we had a major carrier, at that point. It was starting to get somewhat dark. And I thought, I'll just keep walking, and I'll get cell phone service, or someone will pass by. And it just, kept getting darker, and then it started to snow. The snow was getting deeper, and I was cold. I didn't have proper boots on. I just had they were.
Why would you?
Merrells.
You're driving. You wouldn't expect it to snow, right? Why would you? Yeah.
Exactly right. And I, I was getting tired and getting a bit concerned, and it was about, I would say, like 1 a.m, and the only light that I had was my cell phone, but it wasn't a cell phone flashlight. It was just the illumination of the screen. It was very difficult to see, and it was snowing very heavily. And, I was getting somewhat desperate because I didn't know which way to go. I had come to a crossroads, and I thought, I don't know what to do. I'm not sure what to do. And at this point, I was hungry. I had run out of food. I wasn't hallucinating. I don't think I was hallucinating. I wasn't in desperation, in regards to my psychological mindset. But I had been walking now for about 12 hours, and I wasn't sure where to go. And so when I was kind of exasperated, I saw and it was very dark, and I saw like a swirl in the snow, and then this little thing popped up. It looked like a cartoon. This is totally bizarre. And I said, I'm dying. Obviously, I'm dying, because only dying people see these types of hallucinations. And it was this cartoon, like Rikki Tikki Tavi, the cartoon weasel, and it chortled. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know why. And I asked, okay, who are you? And it pointed in a direction and ran down the road. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I should go that way. And so I just kept walking. I know it's really bizarre, because, I don't normally, I don't have these types of experiences ever. And 2 other times when I was at Crossroads, this thing popped up and looked at me and chortled, and then ran down a different road. And then I followed. It was really bizarre. Anyway, you can edit that out if you want, but I have no idea what I can't explain.
I like that.
No
That's
idea
amazing.
what that was. So anyway, at this time it was about 4, I assume it was 4 a.m, because my cell phone lost power. And I thought, I came to a clearing. I was in woods the entire time. I came to a clearing, and I could see maybe 500 yards. There were trees on the other side, and a wide clearing, and a tiny little sign that was in the middle of the clearing. And I thought, okay, well, I just need to rest. And I found a tree, a big spruce tree, and went underneath the tree.
and pulled boughs around myself. And I didn't sit, but it was in a crouching position. I was afraid to fall asleep because of freezing to death. And I just thought, okay, when first light, I'll see what the sign says, see what the clearing is, but I need to stop at that point. And so I wound up, at that point, one of my shoes was very compacted with ice, and I couldn't feel my foot. It was my left foot at that point that was compacted into the shoe. And I was very cold, but I had wrapped myself up in the spruce boughs and waited for first light. And I rocked back and forth to keep warm, and I recounted. I'm a humongous Star Trek fan, and so I was recounting a Star Trek episode to keep myself awake.
Yeah, right.
But at that point, I had no. So I'd been. I'd no like a point where I thought, okay, I need to write my last will and testament. Like, it hadn't occurred to me at that time that, it was just like, okay, I'll get up and we're going to do this. Tomorrow I'm going to just keep walking and see what that sign says and see where I need to go. Just decided that, again, like the best scenario at that point was staying awake and getting help from my family. Yeah. So and at that point, I had walked, I didn't know, but they had told me afterwards that I had walked 20 miles. And at that point I had been awake, for 12 hours, because it was 14 hours. So, Izzy, do you want to tell your side?
So you left around 2:00, and then we start the waiting. It was winter, so the sun set pretty early. So around sunset, we both were worried. Me and my dad head out of the car, and it is beginning to snow. So we walk for maybe 3 or 4 hours. And
you were looking for me. They came looking for me.
But your dad didn't get out because he had just gotten over like a broken back. Am I right?
Yes, correct.
Right.
He had it was.
So you guys had like a vote. You guys decided mom's going because she's the most capable in this moment to be able to get some help.
Yeah, it was like it was a no-brainer. Like, somebody needs to walk 9 miles. Yeah, take mom. She does. That's her thing. So we head out, and then the snow starts picking up, and we walk until, I would say, 11 p.m. And I now know that we walked 7 miles, but I forgot a very important point. That about 1.5 miles in, we were walking in the snow that had gotten to around a foot, and my shoes pretty much dissolved.
What supplies did you have, Izzy?
2 Calypso lemonades, a winter coat. I only had 2 layers on, and I'm pretty sure that's it. I had my cell phone, and my cell phone.
So you had your own cell phone back then?
Yes.
Did your dad have a phone too?
Yeah, he did. We were both.
Okay, so
So after my shoes dissolve and we are walking for maybe 3 or 4 miles, the last 3 or 4 miles have been, or the last 2 miles have been walking in what seems like a void, because the only light we have is our collective phone flashlights, and we could only see about 10-15 feet in front of us. We are yelling for help, and we are asking if there's anybody on the trail, where things like that. And eventually comes a point where our phones get too low, and we have to turn around. It's either we continue without phones or we turn around and go back to the car. And we had already gone 6 or 7 miles at this point. We make the decision that we aren't going to find her. We are too far away. We are following her tracks. We're following her footsteps. So, and we decide.
Oh, you can see footsteps at this point?
Yes, there is a lot of snow on the ground. So it must be around 11:30 p.m. We turn around, and it was a pretty grueling walk because we knew that instead of every step being closer towards mom, it was every step is closer towards failure. We eventually made it back to the car at, I would say, maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. My small mind was already ready for the worst. And my dad makes the decision that once it becomes morning, that he is going to turn around and he is going to walk up FR22/Ryan Road until he finds the last place that had cell phone reception, which was 19 miles away. My dad, he said, what you're going to do is you're going to stay in the car, you're going to run it, but make sure that the car doesn't die, and you're not going to open this door for anybody unless they are me or have a ranger badge or a police badge.
Smart dad.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to find help. And so there my father goes, who broke his back 5 months prior. I think he maybe just got out of his brace or was still in his brace. And there he goes. He's going to walk 19 miles to find reception. And I didn't know if he was going to make it. And
so you're in this car by yourself right now?
I'm in the rental car from 8 a.m. to 2:57 p.m., which at 2:57 p.m., I saw Deputy Tracy Glover of, I think, Kane County, Utah, driving in with my father in the passenger seat.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, he had gotten cell phone service and called 911 because he walked back from where he came.
Wow.
And called 911, and then they questioned him. Of course, that's the first thing they do is they say, were you and your wife fighting, that sort of thing, and then wound up driving back. And to interject just one slight point is we were on a road trip, so the car had our luggage, but also I'm kind of like the quintessential road trip mom. I had snacks and I had drinks, and so there was plenty in the car, to eat and drink, blankets and all of that. Just that's a bit of an aside. And we knew not to, Izzy knew and was told that when the car was running to keep warm, to make sure the tailpipe was clear.
But Izzy, you're in this car by yourself for several hours. You don't know what's happened to mom. You don't know what's happened to dad. And how did you do that?
I kind of felt like a captive animal. I was faced with this situation that had felt way too deeply unsettling to process. I had no idea emotionally what to do. I did do a couple things when I was in the car alone from 8 to 2:57. The first thing that I did was I tried to follow my dad again. I tried to get out of the car and follow my dad. A couple times, I think 2 or 3 times. I never made it more than 10 feet, because it was freezing. And at that point I had stage 1 frostbite in my right foot, and I did not have a right shoe either, so I wasn't making it anywhere. But then I tried moving the car again. I tried getting it out, and I would check on the tailpipe, like my parents said, to make sure that I didn't suffocate. But
that's smart.
Mm-hmm. I would listen to music and just scream. That was kind of a fun coping mechanism. I'm not a very religious person, but I hold my religious identity in a lot of importance, and I decided to I put a napkin on my head to make a makeshift kippah, and I decided to pray. And it was like very, very, very specific thing to pray about, but I wanted to see if I was safe by 2:00, and if I wasn't safe by 2:00, I wanted to cease in the snow. I wanted to fall into the snow, to leave this earth the way that my mother must have hours ago. So I dealt with a lot of heavy emotion, because I had already thought my mom had died. And by 1:00, when it was 1:00, I gave God a second chance, and I said I extend this time to 3:00, and I did the same thing, but I said 3:00, and that's when I saw Tracy Glover, the sheriff. I saw him and my father in a lifted pickup truck, and I couldn't believe it. Finding out that my father was safe and alive, and that he had walked 19 miles in the snow, and he had brought help. It is still one of the most profound feelings of it. What felt like liberation. It felt like I was put in this virtual hell and I was dragged back out of it. I just took a moment to appreciate the fact that at least me and my dad were alive. It had been 24 hours since we crashed, and it was in between 22 and 22 hours since my mom had left. And I thought it was like it would be miraculous if she was still alive. But either way, we get to Jacob Lake where the ambulance is. I get checked out. I got medicine for my foot. So we get driven around. Me and my father get driven around by the Rangers. We like to Walmart and just Walmart and to get food and things like that. And then I fall asleep in the hotel room. We were put in a hotel. And then at 3 a.m, I get awoken by my father that they had found my mother alive. I didn't know her condition, but we both assumed it was critical. But it was one of the most indescribable feelings of all time.
I bet.
I had thought that I was going to have to live my life without a mother, and I was dealing with that for the last maybe 24 hours or for however long time that she was in the snow. And we went to the hospital, and I think it was in Kanab, and we reconvened, and that's pretty much where my part of the major story ends.
One thing I wanted to add to Izzy's story is when they first called the hotel to tell Eric they found me, they said, "We found her," and then the phone went dead. So he didn't know whether they found my body or they didn't know whether they found me alive. And so they called back. It was like 3 minutes, and they wound up calling back and said, "Oh, she's alive." I think it was by satellite phone they had called from when they had found me to inform. But anyway, so I'll pick up so that when at first light, at that point, overnight underneath the tree, and it was continuing to snow. What happens, as you may be aware, having yourself been in survival situations and scenarios, is that your brain starts to go into a bit of and Izzy mentioned it, a lockdown mode. And your priorities start to narrow, into, okay, so what are we doing next? We, like, collectively, that the strategy is like, okay, Karen, like speaking in the third person, oh, what are we going to do? And you start prioritizing your survival, food, drink, shelter, getting to where you need to go. And at first light, I'd walked down to the clearing, and at this point, nothing had been plowed. It was about 2 feet of snow, and there was a layer of ice on top. So like and I'm about 102 pounds, you would step on it, and you'd have to punch down into it. And so it was tough walking. And I got down to in the clearing to where the sign was, and it said, Visitor Center, Northern Visitor Center, 6 miles. And I'm like, okay, that's what we're doing. There has to be somebody at the visitor center. Clearly it wasn't open, but there has to be somebody to look after the place.
Right.
And I made what I did is I made an arrow out of, took the time to take branches and made an arrow pointing to the direction that I was going, even though you could see the footprints. And, 6 miles, first light, started to walk. But at that point I was, for hydration, I was, would take boluses of snow and tuck them back in my cheek because I was to understand not to lower your core body temperature. I was hungry. I was, and I had, I mentioned it previously, but I had heard that if you drink your own urine for hydration, that's effective. I did that, and it was just as much as you would think. It was pretty gross, right? But whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And as the day went on, I was getting more and more tired. I was, what had happened is I lost my left shoe, and I only had a sock on my left foot. And again, punching through the snow, and it had gotten to the point where it started to, I saw in the distance, I saw clouds coming in, like there was a front that was coming in. And as it turned out, in retrospect, what they said was they couldn't, because at that point the team had been deployed to find me, which I didn't know, the search and rescue team, and they couldn't send a helicopter because of the front that was coming through. And I was getting more and more tired. I had pulled a muscle in my left leg. And so to keep moving, I had to actually physically pick up my left leg with my pants leg and move it.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I was on the Grand Canyon Highway, and I could see the road markers, but the snow was deep enough you could just see the tops. And I would say, okay, 10 steps at a time. And collectively, okay, we've got this, team, right? We've got this. Come on, Karen, let's do this. You have to, this is for your family. It's only 6 miles. I would walk 10 steps, and I would collapse, and I would pick myself up again, walk another. 10 more. until I could see something ahead of me. Like it looked like a gate ahead of me and a small, like a ticket, where they take the tickets. It was dusk, and I remember looking around, and I went through the gate, and I saw outbuildings. I saw the ticket booth, and I was calling out. And again, I was hallucinating, and you see, not hallucinating, but like when someone is hallucinating on TV, and the effect they use on the camera is they shake it around.
Yeah.
And you're kind of, that's it, right, from the person's, that's what it looked like. That's what it appeared to be. And, couldn't feel my feet. I was hungry. I was stumbling. And I saw a cabin on the left-hand side that was kind of off in the woods. That was the closest that I could see, the closest building. And it had a snowmobile and a pickup truck in the driveway. And it was dusk at that point. So I thought, okay, somebody's there. And I stumbled over to it. I didn't go like around the road because the closest is a straight line, going over fallen trees. I knocked on the door and called, and nobody had answered. And I thought, okay, well, all right, well, it's Christmas, right? They're not home. And I couldn't open the door. And so what I did was I broke the window with my elbow, and I put my jacket down and crawled through the window and fell on the floor inside the cabin. And it was a ranger's cabin, whoever was looking after the place, but it just seemed like they were away for the holiday. Yeah. But the heat wasn't on, there was no electric. And I recall I was, again, very hallucinating at this point, stumbling around, looking for something all I could find was alcohol. They had a well-stocked, and there were cans of food, but I couldn't find a can opener, and I was freezing. There was no heat. There was a fireplace, but I just didn't have the wherewithal to start a fire. And so I just curled up in a ball and sat on the couch. I put a pillow in the window to prevent the cold from coming in, although it was just as cold in the cabin. And I remember hearing my heart racing, and I don't remember falling asleep, but it was about 2 a.m. where I heard a pounding on the door. First I heard people yelling. I said, "There's a pillow in the door. There's a pillow in the door. Someone is in there." And then a pounding on the door. And they said, "Is somebody in there? Is somebody in there?" And they said, "Can you open the door?" And I said, "Yes." And I stumbled to the door and I opened it. And I said, "Please don't arrest me. For breaking the window. I promise I'll pay for it." That was the thing that was on my mind. Oh my gosh, they're here to arrest me. I broke the window.
Yeah.
And it was the search and rescue team. And they, took off my wet clothes, because my clothes were wet.
Wow.
And most of my wet clothes. And they bundled me up and turned on the electricity to the cabin. And they had a snowcat. That's how they were able to get to me on the Grand Canyon Highway, is they actually had to plow it. And they loaded me up on a gurney and the snowcat. I'm sorry?
How did they find you?
What? Oh, they in fact, there's footage, I believe, on their Facebook page of the snowcat following my tracks in the snow. So they were able to follow my tracks. Because Eric just said, just the most obvious, like, she's a linear thinker, the most obvious, think like a person word. They followed me with the snowcat. They followed my tracks until they got to the clearing at the gate. They saw the arrow, but they saw the snow, the tracks in the snow, and they got to the gate and they said they lost me. They're like, through the gate, they're like, "Where on earth did she go?" And they went to the ticket booth, they went to some outbuildings, and then they saw the cabin. And then they looked in there, and that's when they saw the pillow that was stuck in the window and the broken glass. They took me snowcatted me out to Jacobs Lake, where an ambulance took me to Kanab. And I spent some time there. They did preliminary, like, IV blood work, and it showed that I had rhabdomyolysis from breakdown of muscle tissue. And my creatine kinase, my CK levels were 55,000, which that's where muscle breakdown. Now, if you and I just sitting here, it usually is around 50 to 75, this level in our blood. a marathon runner, it can elevate to maybe 1,000 after a race. Mine were 55,000. So it was risking of kidney failure because of this breakdown. And they said, so we need to take you to another medical center. So they wound up taking me to a bigger medical center. And the concern being, the kidney failure. But they told my husband, they said, look, don't get your hopes up. She's in critical condition and she may not survive this because of organ failure. And even though they said, like, with the initial observation of the frostbite in the left leg was like, we might have to take her leg from the knee down because of the frostbite.
Oh, man. What?
And so they had me on, IVs. They had me in the ICU, and there was a nurse came in, or administrator came in and said, it was a major network news. Like I think it was NBC News. Like, but NBC News is here, and they would like to interview you. And I'm like, why on earth do they want to interview me? Like, what have I done?
Mm-hmm.
And because at that point I had gone 26 miles, but I guess it had hit the search and rescue. How the news wires work, I'm not sure, but it started hitting the news wires, and it started gaining attention. And the security actually had to. Somebody tried to sneak in with a camera. Somebody tried to, a news crew tried to sneak in, and they actually had to, kind of shoo people away. And so with medication and IVs. Oh, and I should say I was found New Year's Eve morning, 3 a.m. So at this point it was the 24th, which I think that was part of the news, the Christmas Eve. Yeah, Christmas Eve. But that was part of the, I think the attraction, from the media's point of view, is that it was like a Christmas miracle.
Yeah,
and,
I would say that's absolutely correct. Christmas miracle for sure.
So, and they had done some, an experimental procedure as far as running, and I'm not exactly sure what it was, to try to save my foot, the one that had lost the shoe. And ultimately, at the end of the day, they were able to save my foot using this procedure. And the doctors said that they hadn't, like, my CK levels came down so quickly that they'd never seen that type of recovery before. And they had said that had I not been, like, in shape, a recreational runner, or had I been, they said if they had found me about 4 hours later, that they would have found me dead, that I would have not survived the next few hours, that they caught me just in time.
When did you guys finally reunite?
In the hospital, the initial hospital in Canal, the small hospital. And I was like, what was your initial reaction? And I was so relieved and thrilled. It was all surreal, but I was still kind of like very much gorked, but I was very grateful. And, these things happen to other people. You don't put yourself in these scenarios until you're like, wait, did this just happen?
Yes.
So it was very surreal in that regard.
Izzy, what was your experience when you saw Mom?
Well, first, the emotional aspect was all of the loss that I had preemptively went through, what am I going to do in my life without my mother? Truly, my mother is an extremely important figure to me. Her endless positivity, the way that she would do just anything to help us. That goes for both of my parents, that I was just filled with this feeling of confusion that people could come together and do something like this that I thought was impossible. I first saw my mother, and I remember that she looked very flush. Her skin appeared like yellow, or just whiter than usual, more pale than usual. she appeared to be in a rough state. I could tell that she was in critical condition, and it seemed like she was very confused, but she was very, very happy to see us.
I bet.
There was a team of 15, was it 15 people that all worked together from multiple counties to save us. And I had now realized that we are now becoming national news.
Well, it garnered so much media attention, international and national media attention. It was overwhelming in a bit of a surreal way. But one of my colleagues is from Mississippi, and he said, I was home and I went to church, and the pastor the sermon was about perseverance, and he brought you up this story. And I said,
wow.
I work with her. I said, oh my God. So, I mean, it was the attention was very humbling and overwhelming, and the kindness and selflessness of the search and rescue team, the people that lived in the town where the hospital was, and just the public in general, and people say like, well, what big picture did you find meaning in your experience, or do you, and the answer is, you just never know. You have to live every day. You have to, certainly lessons are to be learned, of course, big and small, but we haven't been back. We hope to go back. In fact, the sheriff, Izzy has spoken to both sheriffs as of recently, and they've offered to say, hey, we'll take you back and we'll show you where you were. And I'm rather interested, even on Google Maps, I've seen like, that's the tree where I spent the night, and this is the path that we took. So, it's we certainly aren't averse to going back. I don't think we'll go in the winter, obviously. And, we never did get that refrigerator magnet, right? Like, so we never did really.
We never saw the South Rim.
Technically, we're at the Grand Canyon. But,
never got the magnet. Oh man, you went through all that. You need to get a magnet.
Right.
Come on.
Right. So yeah, eventually, I think we'll go back. It's definitely nowadays they have satellite phones. They have emergency 911 calls on your phone. So there are ways that you cannot that what happened to us wouldn't to prevent. And they said that one of the reasons the search and rescue teams were so much in spirits, I think, because of the holiday season, but they also said that they had just had a search and rescue where the person wasn't alive, that they found about, I think, a week before. So they were pretty, they were pretty discouraged, but by that, but they're always happy when they're able to find somebody alive, right? Sure. Yeah.
In Coconino County, in the month of December in 2016, 3 people died from cold exposure. And 3 people got saved from cold exposure. And it's very interesting. I felt like very easily that could have been us. But if I feel like if we do go back, if I have the phone that I have now, this would not have happened because it has a satellite. Mm-hmm. But guess luck of the draw.
Hey man, all those questions come up. Yeah, I know the what ifs. If I had only done this, did this happen this way? It's like, you know what? You're both alive. You're here. You're telling your story. Everybody's made it out, and that's cool. Have you guys had like movie deals or anything like that at all, or book deals or anything come your way at all? Has anybody talked about that?
People have mentioned, you should be in a movie, or they should make a movie. Even like mentioned on the Today Show when they were done with the, with the segment, they said, who will play her in the movie? I wonder who play her in the movie. And there was a survival show we were on. It's called SOS How to Survive on the Weather Channel. We were featured on that. We were on the Today Show. But a friend offered, I know some people, maybe we could put a script together, but that fell through. But if anyone's willing,
if you're out there, if you're listening, this is like a gold mine right here. So
we were thinking, and it was Christmas time, so at least Hallmark Hall of Fame could do something schmaltzy. And do something.
Get on the Hallmark
outside the box. Yeah. You're right.
Oh man.
Sure.
Well, your guys, this is crazy. This is an insanely complex. Everything about this is just a crazy story. I for one, I'm happy that you guys are out, that you're safe, that everybody is able to talk, and these are my favorite kind of endings to stories when people survive. I don't like the alternative at all. So yeah. Anything else you guys want to talk about real quick?
I saw your videos about you in the North Rim, and there was something that you said that I related to a lot, and it's that, like, in hindsight's 2020, you can go and point out everything that you did wrong or everything that you could have done differently, but at the same time, if I could go back, I relate to you in the way that you said that you would not change it. You would have it happen again. And I think I relate to that because it's just such an important life event to all of us. It is the most traumatic days of my life, and it has caused various mental health problems down the road, but it is just such a lesson in survival and perseverance and love that I would take it. I would have it go over again.
That's awesome. Yeah,
And
that's cool.
I thought the way that our story was told was kind of inadequate by the media, because I think there was a lot of very important details that got let out. The media didn't understand that how crucial my dad was. Like, I didn't read anywhere about how my dad walked 19 miles with a broken back, and how if he didn't do it, we would have gotten stuck permanently. And I think that in some cases we were kind of like, we were expressed as thrill seekers, and we weren't thrill seekers. We were just going to the Grand Canyon. And I have had a very long healing journey. I have probably gone through more than like 8 therapists, but I've healed with creation. Like, I made a YouTube video called "Nothing's Going to Change My World," and it's a cover of "Across the Universe" by the Beatles, which is a song that I listened to a lot before and after the event. So it reminds me a lot of that time. So I decided to make a cover of that song, and I made the music video about this event. I just want to thank everybody who was involved, because I want to thank my mother, because she went out when nobody else could have gone out. And I want to thank my father, because he was if he'd had acted on a longer notice, my mother would have died. And it's just so important that it's everything to me. I think the people at Coconino County and Kane County and the Rangers and the rescue team, that they are my heroes. They saved the little boy's mother in circumstances that they must have thought was going to be a body. And I can't believe it. I'm better.
That's awesome.
This has been a very important part of my life.
Karen, anything you want to close with?
Oh, it just, we appreciate your having us on, of course, and having a chance to share our story, and hopes that people will learn lessons, like whether they're inspired by it or whether they're able to learn the things not to do,
Yeah.
you know, if they find themselves in the same situation. And just ever so thankful to everyone involved in our rescue and support even thereafter. And if anyone has any ideas what that weasel could have been or who it was, you know, I'm a very spiritual person, you know, and open to lots of ideas, and who knows what it was. I don't know. Then certainly, like, let me know. But it has been quite an experience.
I got a feeling. I'm a spiritual person too, and I got a feeling some of the people in my comments will probably chime in. So
okay, yeah. I
there
mean,
you go.
And again, it is clear as I'm talking to you that I saw it, and I didn't summon it. It just appeared 3 times. Same thing, little weasel. It was, and there is no weasel indigenous to that area. It looked more like a cartoon drawing.
Yeah.
It was just bizarre.
Yeah.
It was really very bizarre. Who knows?
Well, I appreciate you guys. You're awesome. And your story's crazy, amazing. And I am so thankful that you guys are both, like I said, just safe and well and here. And also, you're fun people. So thanks for making this podcast and being on it and all that good stuff. And
yeah, sure. Absolutely.
All right.
If we're ever your way, we'll stop in.
Awesome. Sounds good. Cool. All right, we'll see you on the next one. YouTube is a rabbit hole of information. So in order to solve that problem, I wrote a backpacking course where I took my 10 years of backpacking experience and the 400 YouTube videos that I filmed and condensed it down into just 18 videos and a few lessons for you to learn. All you have to do is go to my brand new website, danbeckeroutdoors.com, and look for the course.